Chapter 47. It was true that Fourth Master Dai was a fourth-degree realm expert, but Wang Sheng did not feel that Fourth Master Dai's skull was harder than a 300mm steel plate. Moreover, when Wang Sheng fired the shot, he had aimed at Fourth Master Dai's right eye. With Wang Sheng's current eyesight, he could clearly see Fourth Master Dai's silhouette from 3 to 4 miles away. With the addition of the high magnification scope and the stability of his hands at this distance, after careful calculation of the trajectory, if Wang Sheng wanted to hit Fourth Master Dai's right eye, he would definitely not hit the left eye, and the error would definitely be within 1 centimeter. No matter how powerful an expert was, his eyes could not be as strong as the skull of the 1,000 illusion poison centipede. Wang Sheng's shot accurately hit Fourth Master Dai's right eye. But the consequence of the large-caliber sniper rifle was that Fourth Master Dai's head was directly blasted into pieces. Earlier, when they were surveying the terrain by the lake, Wang Sheng had sensed that someone was following them. If it was said that in Upper Forest City, Big Ear could still hide in his room and eavesdrop on Wang Sheng's conversation without being discovered, but to hide from Wang Sheng's intuition and eyes in such a large area, that was almost impossible. Big Ear was too superstitious about his own ears and his own ability. After following Wang Sheng and Song Yin for 2 whole days, if Wang Sheng still did not know anything, then the few years of training and over 10 years of life and death experience on Earth would have been fed to the dogs. The reason why they chose a slightly lower sniping position and not the highest point was because that highest point was reserved for Big Ear. Wang Sheng did not know who was following him, but since they were so sneaky, it was definitely not one of them. Every time they dug some soil, they said it was to confirm the stability of the gun frame, but that was just an excuse. The real purpose was to cover up the fact that Wang Sheng had buried a remote control anti-infantry mine, the kind that would not explode even if someone stepped on it. It would only explode by remote control. The people in this world did not have the concept of sniping. Even the strongest archers could at most shoot from 200 meters away. No one had thought that someone could kill someone from 3 to 4 miles away. Therefore, the sniper's gunshot would definitely attract attention, but the Dai family's guards might not be able to pinpoint the exact location. The purpose of the explosion was to give the Dai clan guards an obvious target. While getting rid of the enemy who was tracking him, it would also lead the Dai clan guards to discover him. It would be best to treat him as the murderer of Fourth Master Dai. Of course, this was just an extravagant hope. Their main goal was to draw the attention of the Dai family's experts, so that Wang Sheng and Song Yin could escape in time. Wang Sheng threw down a scatter-type anti-infantry mine. The moment the mine left his hand, Wang Sheng dragged Song Yin and ran towards the forest behind them. Song Yin had no idea what had happened after the gunshot. She held the binoculars in her hands and stood there like an idiot. Seeing this, Wang Sheng couldn't care less. He grabbed Song Yan's slender hand and ran with all his might. The scattering-type anti-infantry mines were only the size of a ping-pong ball. They were the simplest to set up. All they had to do was throw them on the ground. When the egg-shaped mine completely stabilized, the vibration switch would automatically activate. Once the switch was activated, any vibrations that exceeded a certain level within 10 meters would detonate the mine. The vibrations that could detonate usually included a 50-kilogram person running at a high speed 10 meters away or walking at a closer distance, and so on. There was only one purpose, and that was to kill and injure the pursuer. This type of mine was very well hidden. It wasn't as eye-catching as the equipment warehouse. The pursuer wouldn't think of sneaking past it. Once there was a vibration, it would immediately detonate. There were 64 diamond-shaped blades inside the mine. They were very small and extremely sharp. Once they exploded, even if they couldn't kill the person on the spot, the diamond-shaped blades would enter the person's body and move along with the muscles and blood vessels. They would cut the person's body into a mess and instantly lose the ability to move. Dying on the spot after being blown up by this type of mine was a form of luck. Most of the time, they would die from the pain. War and the weapons used on the battlefield were never merciful. The Dai clan's experts definitely didn't know what was going on with the gunshot just now, but it definitely had something to do with Fourth Master Dai's death. The explosion could attract the attention of the Dai clan's experts, but it definitely couldn't be hidden for long. They would definitely find the real sniper position. The Red-Eye Dai clan experts would definitely come over to take a look. Then, bang! Wang Sheng's prediction wasn't wrong at all. When Wang Sheng pulled Song Yin and fled without a care, the Dai clan experts quickly recovered from the shock of Fourth Master Dai's death. They were no longer running around like headless flies. After all, they were all experts. They had experienced killing and being killed more than once. Although Fourth Master Dai's identity was special and his cultivation was terrifying, strictly speaking, only one person had died. Not long ago, there were more than 20 dead people lying on the plaza. So what? So everyone quickly calmed down and began to deal with the situation. Fourth Master Dai's death was absolutely a huge blow to the Dai clan. Similarly, it was tantamount to annihilation for the guards that had come with Fourth Master Dai. If they couldn't find the murderer, then their fates wouldn't be any better than the guards of young Master Huan that they had just killed. Gunshots and explosions were very abnormal. So immediately, a group of experts rushed towards the location of the explosion. The remaining group split into two groups. One group went forward to investigate the cause of Fourth Master Dai's death. The other group didn't hesitate to raise the butcher's knife against the commoners they had captured. These commoners had been casually captured by Fourth Master Dai after he had entered the Song clan's territory. He wanted them to do hard labor and sacrifice his nephew. But he did not expect that before they could be of use, Fourth Master Dai became a headless corpse. The news of Fourth Master Dai's death couldn't be easily spread. Fourth Master Dai's death wasn't just the death of Fourth Master Dai. It meant that without a super expert like Fourth Master Dai holding down the fort, those clans and enemies that had been bullied and suppressed by the Dai family in the past would definitely look for trouble at all costs. Wang Sheng and Song Yin didn't care about all this. Wang Sheng ran with all his might, while Song Yin followed in a daze. She didn't even know which direction Wang Sheng had dragged her to. Dozens of Dai clan experts rushed madly to the top of the mountain where Big Ear and Big Bear were. It was a distance of 3 to 4 miles, and there was a difference of about 200 meters. These experts took less than 3 minutes to reach the top. The top of the mountain was a mess. There were 2 corpses. One of the corpses had 2 ridiculous big ears on its head. Both corpses were covered in blood, and there were countless holes on their bodies. These experts had seen their fair share of dead people, but none of them could tell how Big Ear and Big Bear had died. There was a thick smell of gunpowder and a huge crater left by an explosion. Many of the traces were things that these experts, who had traveled extensively, had never seen or heard of before. Moreover, this place was so far from the foot of the mountain. How they kill Fourth Master Dai? It didn't take long for the Dai clan's experts, who were forced into a corner, to discover another suspicious point. Especially from the top of the mountain, there were obvious traces of human activity. More than a dozen experts rushed in that direction without a second thought. Rushing from the highest point of the mountain, it didn't even take a minute for the experts to reach the sniping point. The person at the front could clearly see the fresh marks on the grass and branches, but he had only rushed a few steps before he heard another explosion. Boom! More than a dozen people fell to the ground. Experts were experts. They were fast. The fastest among them had already rushed several meters past the landmine before the landmine exploded. The 2 closest to the landmine were killed on the spot. The remaining dozen had at least 2 blades left on each of them. The sharp pain of the blades cutting through their blood vessels and muscles made these unyielding experts scream in agony. At this time, Wang Sheng had already pulled Song Yin and ran for more than 5 minutes. They had run at least 5 miles away. After that, Wang Sheng finally heard the explosion that he had been anticipating. Song Yin was completely awakened by this explosion. After she came to her senses, she realized that her small hand had been held in Wang Sheng's. Her face immediately turned red, and she hurriedly pulled her hand out. Although Song Yin was a little embarrassed to have her hand held by a man, no matter how embarrassed she was, it couldn't compare to the shock she had just seen. The 4th master of the Dai clan, one of the top 3 experts among the foreign affairs experts of the 5 great clans, was right in front of her, right in front of this miraculous cylinder, which could see into the distance. His head was suddenly smashed into pieces, and he directly became a headless ghost. Was there anything more shocking than this? Now that she thought about it, Wang Sheng had long said that he would kill Fourth Master Dai. At that time, Song Yin had thought that Wang Sheng was indulging in fantasy. How could he kill an expert like Fourth Master Dai from 100 steps away? But Wang Sheng had not only killed Fourth Master Dai, he had also killed him from 3 to 4 miles away. Thinking about how Wang Sheng had casually asked, who said that one had to be within 100 steps to kill. At that time, Wang Sheng did not show any expectation at all, but rather a strong self-confidence. Only a trash with a mediocre source spirit? Song Yin thought about the words she had said to Wang Sheng at the beginning, and she felt a little ashamed. Have you ever seen a waste that could kill the top 3 foreign affairs experts of the 5 great clans from 3 to 4 miles away? If Wang Sheng was a waste, then was there anyone in this world that wasn't a waste? While Song Yin was reflecting and blaming herself, Wang Sheng was also summing up his thoughts. The moment Wang Sheng pulled the trigger, Wang Sheng could clearly see Fourth Master Dai's puzzled expression as he looked in his direction. If it wasn't for the fact that there was no such thing as a long-distance sniper in this world, perhaps Fourth Master Dai would have already reacted and his shot would have missed. It was a good thing that Fourth Master Dai had never heard of this kind of unimaginable method of killing someone from 3 to 4 miles away. He did not turn his head. At least he used his cultivation to resist it. Otherwise, Wang Sheng would have no choice but to follow up with another shot. If the shot didn't hit, he could only run for his life. No matter what, Fourth Master Dai was dead. He had temporarily gotten rid of a big problem. In an explosion just now, it had taken away a few lives. Even if there were experts chasing after them, they would definitely be on high alert at the slightest sound, not daring to make a move. The strongest Fourth Master Dai was dead. Would there be anyone else who would dare risk their lives? Chapter 48. The death of Fourth Master Dai was definitely a big deal. This meant that the external balance of power of the 5 great families had been broken. Not only the 5 great families, but basically all the powerful families would be involved in a new round of reshuffling. Song Yin finally woke up from her shock and realized how great the impact of Fourth Master Dai's death on the family was. If this matter was handled properly, the Song family should be the one who could reap the most benefits from it. At this time, staying with Wang Sheng was simply a waste of an opportunity. Song Yin could also see that Wang Sheng would definitely not return to the family with her. This enigmatic man, outsiders had always thought of him as a barbarian, a good-for-nothing. However, Song Yin knew that Wang Sheng had a pride that no one she had ever met combined could match up to. He would never be willing to hide behind a woman, even if that woman was herself. I have to go. It was very safe here. Wang Sheng had also set up a few small traps along the way. No one would be able to chase after them for a while. Song Yin finally understood many things and began to bid farewell to Wang Sheng. Let's go. Wang Sheng nodded. He and Song Yin were not comrades yet, just partners. If we go back earlier to make arrangements, we can still gain a lot of benefits and power. Song Yin suddenly felt like crying. Her eyes were red as she nodded. When I can truly control the Song family, come find me again. At that time, I will be in power and I can do whatever I want. That is actually not true power. Wang Sheng smiled. Then, as if warning or joking, he said, true power isn't just about doing what you want to do. Sometimes, not doing what you don't want to do is what true control is. Wang Sheng's seemingly casual words suddenly enlightened Song Yin. Yes, not doing what you don't want to do. It was easy to say, but it was very difficult to do. Take Song Yin, for example. She was the dignified first wife's daughter, but she was forced to participate in a trial with a slim chance of survival. Before this, she could not even stop those people from marrying her to an outsider. If she didn't want to marry, then she wouldn't marry. This was a joke in the past, but now it seemed to be becoming a reality. Some things really are beyond our control. Song Yin lowered her head and suddenly apologized to Wang Sheng. I'm sorry. It's fine. Wang Sheng was very magnanimous. He didn't care why Song Yin was apologizing to him. You know why I apologized? Song Yin's eyes widened. She had wanted to tell Wang Sheng, but now she was surprised. I killed Fourth Master Dai. I'm afraid your family will make a move against me. Wang Sheng replied without even thinking. How did you know? Song Yin was even more surprised. This was what she had just thought of. Was Wang Sheng a roundworm in her stomach? Aren't all tyrannical clans like this? Wang Sheng chuckled, then looked at Song Yin and said, If you can't be used by me, then I'll just kill you so that you won't be used by the enemy. Can the Song clan be an exception? Of course the Song clan was no exception. Song Yin could imagine it herself. How could those elders let go of Wang Sheng, a person who could threaten their lives from 3 to 4 kilometers away? She didn't expect Wang Sheng to have thought of this long ago. At this moment, Song Yin suddenly did not know what to say. I've known you for so long, but I still don't know what your source spirit is. Wang Sheng asked, Is it convenient for you to tell me? It's not a secret. Song Yin adjusted her mood and slowly said, When I was fusing with my source spirit, I was tricked by someone. It was only a 6-star ice tortoise. She had been tricked by someone in her family and fused with a low-grade source spirit. Song Yan's mood was indescribably heavy. She forced out a smile and said to Wang Sheng, Are you disappointed? Actually, I've long been a cripple in the circles of those large clans. Work hard. When Wang Sheng heard that Song Yan's source spirit was a water attribute ice tortoise, the concept of black tortoise naturally flashed through his mind. He encouraged Song Yan, when you can truly display the power of your source spirit and enter the 6th-stage realm, I'll tell you how to raise your source spirit. How is that possible? This sentence flashed through Song Yan's mind, but before she could say it out, she suddenly remembered that Wang Sheng obviously had a low-grade source spirit, but now he was in the 1st-stage realm. Since Wang Sheng said so, and Wang Sheng really did it, that meant that Wang Sheng really knew the method. Song Yan's eyes instantly lit up, and her entire person displayed an exaggerated, exuberant fighting spirit. I'm leaving. This time, Song Yan didn't say anything more. Her spirits rose, and she even had the energy to fight for power when she returned. She bid farewell to Wang Sheng, and after thinking for a while, she warned, Don't die. Don't worry. Wang Sheng waved at Song Yan, and before he left, he didn't forget to tease Song Yan. Wait for a period of time. I'll get a killer identity in Carefree City. Whoever you want to kill, just pay up. All right, don't casually ask about the Phoenix source spirit. Song Yan solemnly warned Wang Sheng. Believe me, that's a taboo. Song Yan left with a smile. Originally, she was about to lose her fighting spirit and was prepared to give up everything in the family. But Wang Sheng's actions and words made her become that misty full of fighting spirit again. In the future, the Song family would still be decided by the patriarch, and not by a bunch of elders who would forget morality at the sight of profit. After sending Song Yan off, Wang Sheng felt more relaxed. In the forest, even if it was in this unfamiliar world, Wang Sheng felt like a fish in water. Even if there were more than 100 red-eyed Dai family experts behind him, Wang Sheng didn't care. What Wang Sheng urgently needed now was to raise his ability, especially after seeing Fourth Master Dai's power. Just a mere external affairs advisor Fourth Master Dai already gave him such pressure. If he really had to face those old monsters from various families and sects, wouldn't he have no chance at all? First-degree realm cultivation was far from enough, so Wang Sheng needed to raise himself to 2nd or 3rd-degree realm as soon as possible. Only then would he have the capital to barely stand a foothold. Otherwise, he could only be chased by others like a rabbit or seek protection from large families or large businesses. Wang Sheng didn't want that to happen. Dai family's experts gave Wang Sheng a huge amount of pressure and, at the same time, a huge motivation, forcing Wang Sheng to raise his level swiftly, which was also the whetstone Wang Sheng found for himself. The first transformation of the source spirit was the Cheese Kiss transformation. As for the second transformation, Wang Sheng hadn't thought of it yet. But after parting with Song Yan, Wang Sheng had some ideas. Among the 9 sons of the dragon, in terms of battle power, Yazi was the strongest. Swanee was definitely the strongest. Swanee was definitely the best in calligraphy, etc. But in terms of lineage, Tao Tai was the closest to the cheese kiss. Swanee was easy to swallow, and Tao Tai was equally easy to swallow. From this point, both parties were slightly closer. Upgrading was probably the easiest. At the same time, there was an external reason which made Wang Sheng choose Tao Tai. Dai family had obtained a 9-star source spirit, which grew from 99 carps swallowing each other. In Wang Sheng's concept, this kind of mutual devouring and nurturing was a goo and definitely not a good thing. But this kind of thing was indeed extremely vicious and powerful. Originally, they reared 100 carps, but Wang Sheng bumped into one, which meant to say that the 9-star source spirit which Dai family obtained was actually incomplete. Now, that it had just been brought back, it might have just been fused with someone for a few days so no one would discover it. But when the cultivation deepened, the owner of that source spirit would definitely discover this fatal flaw. According to the guesses of Wang Sheng and Song Yin, the one who used the 9-star source spirit must be the candidate for the next head of the Dai family. Originally, Dai Huan might have a chance, but Dai Huan was dead, and it was very likely that it was his younger brother. At that time, the head of the Dai family would take the initiative to use the power of the Dai family to hunt down Wang Sheng and swallow Wang Sheng's source spirit. Since there was a great possibility of swallowing a powerful 9-star source spirit, why didn't Wang Sheng let Tao Tai compete with the other party to see who swallowed who? Now Wang Sheng was even looking forward to letting the future head of the Dai family discover the flaw earlier and then swallowing it with himself. Therefore, Wang Sheng chose the second transformation, which was the Tao Tai transformation. On this side, Wang Sheng had just made up his mind when there was a change in the source spirit space. A cloud path appeared right in front of Chi-Wan. There was no need to ask, it must be Tao Tai in front. Swanee's good hope strengthened Wang Sheng's vision. So what was swallowing? Wang Sheng still had no idea. He could only take one step at a time. After all, this was something that Wang Sheng had explored by himself. There was no one who could give Wang Sheng any pointers. Even if it was the gray little person, there was no room for optimization in this area, and he didn't know how to improve it. Perhaps everything needed to be explored in battle. The Dai family completely blocked the news, but what they didn't know was that Song Yin was present at the time, watching Dai Huan die in front of her. So a few days after Song Yin left, the Song family found out about everything. The Song family's Xianglin city side was almost crazily mobilized. The Heavenly River Song family also sent a large number of experts to hunt down the Dai family. The reason was that 4th Master Dai had brought people to kill hundreds of people in the Song family's territory. Of course, the Dai family also sent people to report, but when the Dai family received the news, it was already too late to mobilize people. The furious Dai family had directly issued a high reward, offering a reward for the murderer of 4th Master Dai. The Song family's 9-star essence spirit had been snatched, and now 4th Master Dai had died in the Song family's territory. Both parties had really formed an irreconcilable enmity. At this moment, even those elders of the Song family who were on good terms with the Dai family didn't dare to say a word at this moment. This matter concerned the family's benefits. Whoever dared to collude with the Dai family would be the family's biggest enemy. The Dai family saw that they couldn't hide it any longer, so they spread out even more news. 4th Master Dai was killed by a barbarian with a mediocre essence spirit, and that barbarian had a weapon which could kill a 4th stage realm peak expert from miles away. This barbarian was from the Song family. Hence, the pressure instantly landed on the Song family. Numerous top experts directly or indirectly passed the news to the Song family, asking the principal elder if it was true, what kind of weapon was that, and what was the identity of that barbarian. Song family's actions. Were they going to become enemies with the entire world? Under the huge pressure, the Song family's elders made a prompt decision, announcing the order to kill Wang Sheng. Just like what Wang Sheng said, since he couldn't be of use to him, then he should be killed, in case he landed in the enemy's hands. Chapter 49. The mountainous area, several hundred miles to the east of Upper Forest City, was no longer an area where ordinary people could roam. Originally, several hundred miles to the east was where various powerful demonic beasts gathered, and any nearer would be a chaotic battle zone. Dai family and Song family were locked in a fierce battle in this area, and within a short span of a month, both sides had already lost more than 100 experts. Fourth Master Dai brought along less than 20 guards back to the Dai family's territory, while the rest were all buried in this area. Song family also lost at least 30 people. After all, it was their home ground advantage. Of course, the biggest reason was still Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng alone killed more than 30 people from Dai family in this mountainous area. The weakest was a first-stage realm peak expert, while the rest were at least second-stage realm cultivators. However, this area was no longer just filled with Song and Dai family members. Most of them were assassins and hunters who came for the high bounties. Most of them were Carefree City's assassins and another assassin organization, Godly Might Prison's assassins. Most of the time, Carefree City's assassins were mercenaries and not all assassins. As long as they could earn money, they would do anything. But Godly Might Prison was different. Everyone from Godly Might Prison was a pure assassin. They only took on the job of killing people and would never care about anything else. But because of this, Godly Might Prison's assassins were more professional than Carefree City's assassins in their clients' eyes. Naturally, Godly Might Prison's assassins were more feared. Previously, when Dai family released a high bounty, Song family was afraid that people would misunderstand, so they also offered a bounty on Wang Sheng's head. After a month, Dai family and Song family's own people were only waving flags and shouting battle cries in the outer circle. The ones who really took action had changed to Carefree City and Godly Might Prison. A family's disciple's death meant one less, but when an assassin died, they could still use gold to hire another. Wasn't that so? Fourth Master Dai's corpse. Big Ear and Big Bear's corpses were sent back to Dai family. This was something that the Dai family's guards quickly did before Song family could react. Even if Fourth Master Dai was already dead, they had to let people know how he died. Big Ear and Big Bear were important clues. In addition, the corpses of the Dai family's guards, who were injured by Wang Sheng's landmines and struggled for a day before dying, were also sent back to find out how they died. As for the rest of the corpses, they were sent to the Song family. The Song family had already invited a master from the Linglong Pavilion to come and analyze the strange injuries and the ridiculously thin blades. On the other hand, the second elder of the Godly Might Prison personally invited a veteran to give him pointers. I can't make them. Holding a diamond-shaped blade and feeling the sharpness of the blade that was as thin as a cicada's wing, a forging expert invited by the Dai family shook his head. It's so thin, flat, and sharp. I can't make it. After a short pause, the forging expert exclaimed in admiration, I really don't know how the master who created this did it. This kind of material was definitely not inferior to the top-grade dark steel of the exquisite pavilion. Even the great craftsman of the Pavilion of Delicacy can't make it, unless it's the legendary one. The legendary fellow that the expert mentioned, everyone had a tacit understanding that he was the top-grade forging expert in the Pavilion of Delicacy, or rather the entire world. He was already an immortal-like figure. No one would believe that he forged this kind of god relic for a lowly barbarian. Fourth Master's injury looks as though his head was smashed by a great force. The 8th-grade killer from Carefree City whom the Dai family had hired also shook his head. Fighting face-to-face, there are experts at the peak of the 5th-degree realm or higher who can do it, but how many miles apart? The 8th-grade killer didn't continue and just shook his head. I have some impression of these two people. They should be our killers from the Carefree City. Big Ear and Big Bear's corpses were identified for a long time. The big ear on Big Ear's head was simply too eye-catching, and the characteristic was very obvious. The two of them originally had the Carefree City's killer badge on them, and that Carefree City's top-grade killer wouldn't deny it. They were just killers. Anyway, the employer paid them, and they put in the effort, so it had nothing to do with hatred. The Dai family didn't vent their anger on the Carefree City because of this. They just paid them to identify their identities. They don't have the ability to kill Fourth Master Dai. The top-grade killer didn't need to look at Big Ear and Big Bear's killer badge to know that their killer's level wasn't high. Which high-grade killer didn't he know? Looks like it's really that barbarian. Dai family's patriarch believed in this top-grade killer's judgment. In actual fact, his judgment was similar to the Dai family's own expert's judgment. However, no one knew how Wang Sheng had managed to do it. What kind of thing could behead someone from a few miles away? Dai family's fourth Master Dai's death didn't turn the tables. If they could get their hands on that terrifying hidden weapon in Wang Sheng's hands, it was worth it even if another fourth Master Dai died. While the Dai family was analyzing, the Song family was doing the same thing. But they weren't analyzing the cause of death of the Dai family's guards, but the corpses that the Song family's disciples carried out from the forest. There were at least 50 over corpses. Some of them were from the Dai family. Some were from the Song family, but most of them were sent in by various parties who wanted to take advantage of the situation. There were also some from the Carefree City and Godly Might Prison, but there were only 3 of them in total. The great craftsmen from the Pavilion of Delicacy invited by the Song family hadn't arrived yet, but 2 people from the Godly Might Prison came, one old and one young. The old one looked senile and wobbly with every step he took, looking like he was about to die. The young one was an inexperienced young man who would blush when he saw women as if he had never been out of his house before. Even though the 2 of them didn't look like much, everyone in the Song family served them like they were masters. Even though they looked old and weak at first glance, they were still old and weak people from the Godly Might Prison. If they said anything unpleasant, they wouldn't even know when they would lose their heads in their sleep. The Godly Might Prison was the leading killer organization, and no one dared to offend them easily. The second elder had gone to the Pavilion of Delicacy, but wasn't around. The third elder accompanied them personally, giving them enough face. However, the young man from the Godly Might Prison was very interested in the dozens of corpses and was squatting there, studying them carefully. The old man sat quietly, but his eyes were also looking over there. Impressive. The young man touched the wound on the corpse, completely ignoring the disgusted and fearful gazes of others when they saw him like this. He praised excitedly. A simple tree branch and a sharpened wooden stick can deliver a fatal blow, and there's no need for anyone to be present. He extended his finger into the wound on the stomach of the second corpse and looked at the bloody hole on the foot of the second corpse. Nodding, he sighed again. He planted a small trap under his foot first. Once he stepped on it and got hurt, he would naturally be stabbed into the stomach by the trunk on the ground when he fell. What a great scheme. He must have dodged the branch that suddenly swept in front of him. Then, he tilted his head and bumped into the poisonous thorns. He was hit in the groin by the bounced stick. In excruciating pain, he accidentally jumped into the snake nest nearby. His eyes were blinded, and he bumped into his partner's sword in shock. What bad luck you have. His neck was slit from behind. His death was justified. He fell into the water and drowned. There are pinch marks on his ankle. He must have been dragged in the water and drowned. His opponent's skill in holding his breath is top-notch. The corpses were examined one by one. The series of methods displayed on each corpse made the young man's face pale with excitement. His eyes shone with a strange light, as if he had inhaled something stimulating. This one was strangled to death at close range. Touching the strangulation mark on the neck of the last corpse, the young man felt the direction of the strangulation mark. He simulated a movement and laughed. He was walking with his head covered and didn't pay attention to his head. Someone used a string to hang him up. That string is a great treasure. The old man, sitting not far away, suddenly interrupted. It's not an ordinary thing to be able to hang a person up with such a thin string. Seeing the bright light in the young man's eyes when he heard about the treasure, the old man could not help but sigh. You don't have to think about it. Why? The young man was naturally unconvinced. As he spoke, he went to the side to wash his hands and walked back to the table where the third elder and the old man were sitting. He picked up a snack and ate it, completely ignoring the fact that his hands had searched through the pile of corpses one by one. Although you can see the method of others, you don't have the ability to do it yourself. The old man raised his head lazily. There was not much flesh on his thin and weak face. He said disdainfully, "He's definitely a good killer. If you follow him in, you'll be lucky if you can come out alive." The third elder had been listening by the side. He was shocked when he heard this, but he did not dare to question the old man's judgment. He just listened quietly. He was also surprised in his heart. He did not expect that Wang Sheng, a mediocre young man, would have such extraordinary things. Any string he pulled out was a treasure. What about you, great ancestor? The young man also did not dare to question the old man's judgment. He was a killer and had a clear understanding of his ability. He would not be ashamed into anger. He was really interested in the treasure that the old man had mentioned. He could not wait to take it for himself. Me? The old man looked at the row of corpses lazily. He lowered his head and pondered for a while. If I were to take action, I would probably be able to come out from the mountain in one piece. If Elderly were to take action, that guy would naturally be captured without a fight. The third elder did not take it seriously. He smiled and flattered. This Elderly was an expert from the Godly Might prison. It would not be bad to flatter him. The young man also kept nodding and echoed the third elder's words. Alas, Elderly sighed. I can come out in one piece. That's the best estimate of me relying on my seniority. If I were to fight with someone in the mountain, they would definitely do what they were supposed to do. An old man like me might not even be able to see them. It would be good if I could stay alive. Chapter 50. As soon as he said that, third elder and the young man were shocked. Especially the young man. He couldn't believe that the great ancestor had said that. Who was Elderly? He was a famous killer of the Godly Might prison. He had killed countless experts in his life. But now he actually had such an evaluation of that barbarian. How is that possible? You don't believe me? Elderly smiled and explained, look at his technique. Except for the one who was hung at close range, how much effort did he put in to kill the others? He might just be a twig that was bent on the road, but to the people behind him, it was a killing trap. Don't be unconvinced. In the Godly Might prison, no one can be as skilled as him. If he was from the Godly Might prison, he would definitely be a master that people would worship. If we were face to face, I don't want to brag, but even 10 of him wouldn't be a match for me. Third Elder's expression was the most exaggerated. This time, Elderly was facing him. To put it bluntly, I don't even need to do anything. Xiao Lu can kill him with just one arm. Xiao Lu is a young man, just now. Hearing Elderly's evaluation, Xiao Lu also showed a trace of joy on his face. He smiled honestly and was very happy. But he won't give you a chance to face him. Elderly then turned to Xiao Lu and said, you are 10 times more powerful than him. If you can't catch up with him and can't see him, who can you kill? Do you think you can take someone's head from a few miles away? Xiao Lu was a little embarrassed by Elderly's words, but he didn't dare to refute him. He just snorted softly to express his dissatisfaction. Don't be unconvinced. Elderly seemed to value Xiao Lu very much. He took the opportunity to point out, your analysis just now is somewhat reasonable, but you haven't grasped the key point. Did I miss something? Xiao Lu was a smart man. He immediately realized that the opportunity had come and sincerely asked for advice. Third Elder was also puzzled. At the moment, he didn't say anything and waited for Elderly to explain. We are all cultivators. Don't criticize each other. Elderly put on a look as if he was teaching a junior a lesson. Xiao Lu also listened humbly. With the protection of spiritual energy, who can a branch kill? But why did they die under that ordinary branch? There were quite a few corpses that had died under Wang Sheng's simple traps. Not to mention those that had been killed by demonic beasts or those that had been killed by Wang Sheng's own hands. Just those that had been killed by small traps were very unusual. Third Elder and Little Six both realized that something was wrong, but they couldn't say anything at the moment. They could only wait for Elderly to explain. Every type of trap is not a single one. They are all serial traps. Once activated, it will be a series of traps. Old Manly did not hide anything and explained. On the one hand, it was to instruct the younger generation. On the other hand, he was also invited by the Song family with money. Naturally, he had to make the Song family feel that the money was worth it. Maybe at the very beginning, you'll lose your balance and fall. Under the protection of spiritual energy, you won't suffer any injuries. But this will disrupt the rhythm of your spiritual energy circulation. When the second trap activates, you'll either run out of spiritual energy or you'll be at the critical point where new energy has yet to be generated. At this time, the spiritual chi protection of the killer move would be useless, and he would be no different from an ordinary person. That's why the killer move can be effective. The one you just saw died after he tripped and was stabbed in the stomach by this branch. But you didn't look carefully at the back of his neck. There's a shallow whip mark. This is the whip of another branch the moment he tripped. He obviously felt it, so he protected his neck with spiritual energy and ignored his stomach. That's why he was killed by a sharpened, ordinary branch. And look at this one. It looks like he was whipped in the lower body and jumped into a snake's nest in pain. But you didn't see his eyes. There's a layer of dust under his eyelids. He was blinded first, and the sharp pain in his eyes caused his spiritual energy to disperse. That's why he stepped on the wooden stick below. The one who fell into the water was pushed in. He's not a good swimmer. He didn't hold his breath as soon as he entered the water. Then he was suddenly attacked, and his ankle was pulled, causing him to choke. At this time, no matter how powerful he was, he couldn't attack enough in the water, so he couldn't get away. He could only drown. These people obviously took advantage of people's instincts and habits and disrupted the rhythm of spiritual energy circulation. That's why they were killed. It's not as simple as you say. Of course, these little fellows didn't die unjustly. With such low cultivation, they dared to barge into this kind of killing array. Their deaths were in vain. They had to at least reach the fifth-degree realm and be completely unaffected by external objects. Only then would they have the confidence to chase after this person. But this hasn't taken into account those powerful hidden weapons that can behead people from miles away. Even a fifth-degree realm wouldn't be able to handle it. Even if this old man chased after them, they wouldn't meet me face to face. They only cared about setting up a bunch of traps. This old man would also be exhausted. Luckily, after all these years, this old man still has some hidden abilities, so I can barely come out in one piece. As for killing people, forget it. After pointing out several mistakes in Shao Yozi's analysis, Old Manly finally stopped and returned to his original seat. He slowly sipped his tea and waited for Shao Yozi and the third elder to digest and comprehend. How did you guys offend such a person? After their gazes left the corpses and returned back to Old Lee then turned to face third elder earnestly. Listen to this old man. There's no enmity of killing one's father or snatching one's wife. If you can let it go, just let it go. Old Lee, you're a second-grade killer from Godly Might Prison. Third elder gave a bitter laugh as he looked at Old Lee, not knowing what to say. Killers are also humans, whose life isn't important. We're merely using our lives to exchange for other people's lives. Old Lee sighed. If we can avoid killing people, of course it's best not to. Don't worry, since Godly Might Prison has already accepted this mission, this old man will not let it go. Hearing Old Lee's words, third elder finally heaved a sigh of relief. If Godly Might Prison's second-grade killer didn't dare to make a move, wouldn't that be a huge joke? But we have to reconsider killing this little fellow. Old Lee said slowly. This time round we came in a hurry and didn't understand enough. You didn't explain the target in detail. If I knew it was so difficult to deal with, I would have increased the price by several times. Sigh. What loss? Don't worry, Old Lee. We can negotiate the price. How could third elder not know what to do at this moment? He immediately expressed his stance. I'll instruct the butler to send 10 times the price to Godly Might Prison later. Don't worry, Old Lee. Sigh. Old Lee didn't comment on this. He only let out a long sigh as if he had a lot of emotions. He's equipped with a whole body of good stuff. I really want to know where this young man came from. How can a young man who's all alone have such a divine weapon? How can he have such killing skills? I wonder which big shot or family he'll offend, sigh. It seemed as though he was sighing, but the words that came after stunned the third elder. Many things that he hadn't thought about before suddenly became clear to him. Song Yin should have discovered the abnormality during the family trial. The weapon that pierced through the 1,000 illusion poisonous centipede's head should be the artifact that took away Fourth Master Dai's head from a few miles away. Apart from that, there should be a smaller hidden weapon that killed Dai Huan. The one that blew up the male snake's head should be another unknown weapon that was more powerful. Song Xiao and the others that were sent out had yet to return. Now, it was certain that they definitely wouldn't be coming back. If he was alive, we couldn't see him. If he was dead, we couldn't see his corpse. Just as Oldley had said, a single barbarian with a whole body of good stuff, and this kind of mysterious method was definitely not something a lone barbarian could do. If a person could do this, any one of his items would immediately raise him to the position of a master craftsman of the exquisite pavilion. There was no need for him to be a barbarian who was chased by others. Apart from some hidden families, Third Elder couldn't think of any other power that could raise such a monstrous disciple. Those big families that were as famous as the Song family definitely wouldn't have such a method. Song Yin should have discovered this early on, so she spared no effort to win him over. She didn't even hesitate to let that barbarian Wang Sheng become her fiancé. But at that time, everyone was deceived by the appearance of Wang Sheng's inferior source spirit, so they didn't notice this at all. Third Elder couldn't help but laugh. They were all old men who were at least 3 times older than Song Yan, but their knowledge was actually inferior to an 18-year-old girl. Song Yanning would rather die than marry Dai Huan to realize the marriage between the Dai family and the Song family, but she was willing to give herself to a mediocre barbarian. They should have realized this at that time. If they had tried to win him over at that time, maybe Wang Sheng would already be a member of the Song family. If they had known that he had such a great background, why not marry Song Yin to him? Unfortunately, Third Elder only realized it now after Old Li of the Godly Might prison reminded him. Several killers had already been found and killed, so it was already too late to turn back. An indescribable regret filled Third Elder's heart. Wasn't the Song family in trouble this time? If they really chased Wang Sheng relentlessly, even if they succeeded, would the power behind Wang Sheng be happy? If they sent a few people to kill him with divine weapons that could kill people from miles away, who could stand it? I appreciate Old Li's heartfelt words. Third Elder understood this and immediately made a decision. Old Li and the others should rest first. Let's discuss this. In the end, Old Li is a compassionate person. It's better not to kill people if we can. Those fellows in Carefree City who can't even see gold aren't even fit to carry Old Li's shoes. After praising Old Li and settling Old Li and Little Six down, Third Elder hurriedly said his goodbyes and looked for the other elders to discuss this matter. Little Six, remember this. Old Li finally had a smile on his face. He looked at Little Six and reminded him, why is our Godly Might prison's reputation better than Carefree City's? It's because we know who we can kill and who we can't. Who we can kill and who we can't. We only kill those who we can and can kill, so naturally we will never fail. Chapter 51. Actually, Little Six was not convinced by Mr. Li's words. He was just a mediocre, ordinary person with a magic weapon in his hand. Was it worth being so cautious? However, looking at the faint light of wisdom in Mr. Li's seemingly dim old eyes, Little Six was smart enough not to say anything, but just nodded. Being a little famous in the Godly Might prison and being favored by Mr. Li, coupled with his excellent analysis of the causes of death of the deceased, Little Six's eyes were sharp and his mind was clever enough. Little Six knew very well when to speak and when not to speak. While the Song family was busy making arrangements, Wang Sheng was also reorganizing. After being chased for more than a month, Wang Sheng's nerve had been stretched to the limit. Finally, the pursuers were not so hot after losing a lot of people, so Wang Sheng had a chance to relax a little. The continuous battles allowed Wang Sheng to completely digest and absorb the benefits brought by the Chi Kiss transformation. Otherwise, how could it be said that true knowledge came from practice? No matter how much he learned in theory, it was not as solid as what he learned in practice. The first was the improvement of his physical fitness. Wang Sheng was very clear that no matter how thoroughly the aura nourished his body, the improvement of his physical fitness could not be achieved overnight. The kind of thing where he was thin and weak yesterday and became Captain America with big muscles and big breasts today could only happen in movies. To put it bluntly, even the growth of muscle fibers took time. The nourishment of aura could improve a certain extent in a short time, but was by no means the limit. Through effective use of exercise, there could be at least double the room for improvement. In the past month, Wang Sheng's body had been fully exercised. Running, jumping, climbing, and all kinds of methods had effectively tempered the muscles all over his body. Wang Sheng almost didn't need to exercise empty-handed. Wang Sheng could do simple movements such as push-ups and sit-ups for 2 hours without sweating. When he occasionally exercised, he put 3,000 gold coins in his backpack as a weight, which was equivalent to carrying 300 kilograms of weight, so that Wang Sheng could feel it. Wang Sheng's muscle strength, flexibility, reaction speed, and body's recovery rate, which was also the metabolic rate of his cells, had all improved significantly. This was the main reason why Wang Sheng felt at ease. Another surprise was Wang Sheng's eyesight. When he first completed the Qi Kiss transformation, Wang Sheng found that he could see further and more clearly in the dim light. However, there was one thing that Wang Sheng did not realize, and that was his ability to distinguish colors. When he was on Earth, or even before the Qi when transformation of this world, Wang Sheng's ability to distinguish colors could only be said to be the same as ordinary people. He was neither colorblind nor colorblind, but the performance of a normal person. But after the Qi transformation, everything was different. Wang Sheng first discovered this when he saw an assassin in disguise. The assassin was covered with branches and grass, similar to Wang Sheng's ghillie suit. He was crawling in the bushes next to a big tree. Ordinary people might directly ignore that place, but Wang Sheng could see the subtle difference between that place and the surrounding environment at a glance. The assassin used the bushes and weeds to cover himself, but the color of the broken bushes and dead weeds, even if it was only for 10 minutes, would be slightly different from the color of the living ones. However, this difference was really too small. If it was put on a computer monitor, it might only be a difference of 1 plus or minus for each RGB value. How many professional artists could not distinguish it? However, Wang Sheng had been able to tell with a single glance that there was something different about him. Wang Sheng himself was an expert in disguise, and coupled with his outstanding eyes, he discovered the other party's location at a glance. He set up a targeted small trap and easily killed the disguised assassin. Many times after that, Wang Sheng relied on this extraordinary pair of eyes to discover the enemy from afar in advance, and was able to set up calmly again and again. The most dangerous time, Wang Sheng only discovered the assassin when he was more than 10 steps away from him. At that time, Wang Sheng was on the tree, and the assassin was hiding under the tree. After a contest of patience, Wang Sheng relied on the sniper's patience to gain the upper hand, and used the thin wire in his military watch to hang the first stage peak assassin. That thin wire was also the good thing that Old Li could not forget. Don't think that Wang Sheng used traps and other things to kill many people, but Wang Sheng himself had suffered a lot. One must know that the weakest opponent had a higher cultivation than Wang Sheng, and among them were second stage and third stage experts. It was already a great achievement for Wang Sheng to be able to escape unscathed. Even so, Wang Sheng was injured. There were several close-range attacks, and the enemy had a fierce counterattack. Fortunately, with the protection of the liquid bulletproof vest, every time Wang Sheng was attacked by the enemy, the liquid bulletproof vest could disperse the attack to the entire chest and abdomen, so the possibility of Wang Sheng being injured was greatly reduced. Relying on the battle awareness of the little person and Wang Sheng's own battle experience, Wang Sheng was able to successfully find the enemy's weakness every time and attack. But this did not mean that he was not attacked every time. It was just that the enemy was fatally injured, and Wang Sheng was lightly injured. Especially Wang Sheng was very careful to protect his head. Not only did he wear a helmet, he also wore goggles. Most of the injuries were on the body, and there were basically no external injuries. The weapons of these assassins were temporarily unable to break through the liquid bulletproof vest's anti-stab function. But the spiritual energy contained in it was something that Wang Sheng could not avoid, and internal injuries were inevitable. Thus, after being injured, Wang Sheng finally discovered what the characteristic of Qi Kiss was. The spirit Qi Kiss could swallow the external spiritual energy that attacked its own body. The first time, the injury was not heavy, but Qi Wen's spirit seemed to have found some great tonic. It directly opened its dragon mouth and a suction force appeared, directly sucking the foreign spirit Qi into the spirit space, and was swallowed by Qi One. The most troublesome thing about internal injuries was the continuous damage caused by the accumulation of spiritual energy. Without the destruction of the external spiritual energy, the remaining small pain, Wang Sheng's body's self-healing ability was enough to let Wang Sheng recover quickly. Later, after being attacked several times, Wang Sheng found that the Qi Kiss spirit could not swallow all the spiritual energy in one mouth. There was still an upper limit. But the Qi Kiss spirit could not only swallow once. After digesting a mouthful, it could continue to swallow. No matter how strong the spiritual energy attack was, the Qi Kiss spirit could be divided into many times and slowly consumed. Wang Sheng's own spiritual energy protection plus the liquid bulletproof vest could offset part of the spiritual energy attack, plus the swallowing power of the Qi Kiss spirit. Wang Sheng found that as long as he was not hit by a master of the peak of the second stage realm or above, even if Wang Sheng was inevitably injured, he would not lose his ability to move instantly. The most ruthless time was when a killer in the middle stage of the second stage realm counterattacked and stabbed Wang Sheng's heart with a sword. The huge strength and powerful attack directly made Wang Sheng vomit blood. Although the opponent's throat was also cut by Wang Sheng was still seriously injured and could still run. After stumbling for hundreds of meters, the Qi Kiss swallowed the second mouthful of spiritual energy, which let Wang Sheng recover. It had to be said that the medicine that Wang Sheng exchanged from Imperial Treasure House Lu Wenho was really good. With the swallowing of the Qi Kiss and the treatment of the medicine, Wang Sheng's internal injury only took 2 days to recover by 80%. And at this time, Wang Sheng had recovered at least 90% of his combat power. Surprise! Wang Sheng was really surprised. Who knew that the Qi Kiss transformation contained so many benefits? Wang Sheng almost thought that the improvement of vision and physical fitness was the limit. He did not expect there was a follow-up. The more benefits found, the more Wang Sheng looked forward to the next 12 changes. More surprises suddenly appeared when Wang Sheng slowed down to recuperate. The Qi Kiss transformation happened because the carp spirit jumped the dragon gate, but the Tao Tai transformation, Wang Sheng did not know what conditions to meet. But after the Qi Kiss source spirit had continuously swallowed so much external spirit power, the condition for its upgrade suddenly appeared on that cloud path. A mountain suddenly appeared in the spirit space. Wang Sheng himself was shocked. To be exact, it was not a mountain, but a big mountain plus 2 small mountains. The big mountain was very big, and the 2 small mountains were medium-sized, while the other was relatively small. The 3 mountains were each a hole, and it was not wrong to describe them as 3 boulders. However, the smallest one was almost as big as the Tiananmen Gate Tower. The medium one was estimated to be the size of the Forbidden City, and as for the largest one, it was estimated to be about the size of Beijing. This was only the bottom area. The height should be almost 10 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet. As soon as these appeared, the Qi Kiss source spirit became very excited. It opened its big dragon mouth and bit down on the smallest piece. Then, as expected, it only bit a small corner and was stuck there. It could only loosen its mouth and continue to absorb the spiritual qi. Wang Sheng understood for the Tao Tai transformation, it needed the Qi Kiss spirit to be able to swallow the biggest mountain in one bite. The more spiritual qi the spirit absorbed, the bigger the mouth could open. Before there was no direction at all, even if Wang Sheng kept using his spirit to absorb spiritual qi, it was in vain. Now, he finally had a goal. Even if it was impossible for the 3 feet long Qi Kiss to swallow the smallest mountain, at least he had a direction. Before the carp spirit jumped the dragon gate, it could only jump less than a foot high, but the dragon gate was 10 feet high. It seemed impossible, but didn't happen now. Wang Sheng's heart was once again eager, with a goal to strive for. His enthusiasm for cultivation also rose. Sure enough, a lot of times it was in a real battle that a qualitative change would occur. Before Wang Sheng killed the 1,000 illusion poison centipede, now after more than a month of pursuit, it was the same. The spirit was used to fight. so it could only become more and more powerful in battle. Obviously feeling that the strength of the pursuit had decreased a lot, Wang Sheng did not know what happened. However, this was a good thing. No one liked to be chased. Just taking advantage of the reduced strength of the pursuit, after 2 days of rest, Wang Sheng calmly drilled into the depths of the mountain. After a few laps, he came out of the mountain 100 miles away and easily integrated into the crowd. Chapter 52. No matter how powerful the Song and Dai family were, it was impossible for them to defend such a large area of several hundred miles. Based on Wang Sheng's valiant survival skills and combat experience, finding a loophole was as easy as eating and drinking. Wang Sheng swaggered away, and even when he reached a populated area, no one discovered anything unusual about Wang Sheng. Everyone had always thought that Wang Sheng was a barbarian because when Wang Sheng first arrived, he had painted his face with battle paint. Once the paint was wiped off, he changed into a normal set of clothes and wrapped his hair in a cloth. Who would be able to tell that something was wrong? What's more, everyone knew that Wang Sheng was an ordinary person with a mediocre spirit. But based on Wang Sheng's current performance, anyone with experience will be able to tell that Wang Sheng was a first-degree realm early-stage cultivator. He was obviously not the person they were chasing. Even Song Yin and Song Laoyu were unable to accept the fact that Wang Sheng had entered the first-degree realm. It was impossible for most of the top experts to accept the fact that a mediocre spirit cultivator could cultivate to the first-degree realm. Hence, Wang Sheng could be said to have brushed past the eyes of those who were chasing him, but no one noticed him. By the time Wang Sheng had changed a few places on horseback and was thousands of miles away, no one cared who this ordinary first-degree realm young lad was. This was no longer the Song family's turf, nor was it the Dai family's turf. It was the turf of another large family, the Shi family of Shanin. Of course, it was not the core region, but the periphery, close to the Song family's turf. This kind of bordering place would definitely be the most chaotic place during wartime. In peacetime, it would be a place where the emperor was far away and neither side was willing to spend much effort on. Basically, no one mentioned anything about the Song family, Dai family, Song family's eldest young Mrs. Fiancé. A matter thousands of miles away, and a mediocre ordinary person's matter. It would be strange if anyone cared about such a small piece of news. Wang Sheng temporarily settled down here. It wasn't that Wang Sheng really wanted to settle down here. There were 2 reasons why Wang Sheng decided to lay low for the time being. The first was what Song Yin had warned him before he left, that the Phoenix origin soul could not be easily inquired about. It was a taboo. Wang Sheng believed that Song Yin would not lie to him about this matter. Furthermore, he had heard of many legends of experts, but he had never heard of the story of the Phoenix. There must be a very dangerous reason behind it. The other was Wang Sheng's need to improve his strength. Ever since Wang Sheng had discovered the requirements for leveling up his Tao Tai transformation, he had been cultivating diligently. The 2 Tai Qi Yin Yang swirls were crazily absorbing energy, hoping that one day he would be able to swallow that small mountain. But one day, Wang Sheng accidentally discovered that the spiritual energy he absorbed according to the method of the primeval chaos technique was not as helpful to his source soul as it was to the external spiritual energy. According to Wang Sheng's rough estimation, the effect of absorbing spiritual energy from the enemy's attacks was 10 times better than absorbing spiritual energy spontaneously. As a result, Wang Sheng thought of a very secretive method to absorb the spiritual energy from the enemy's attacks. Linchuan City was a large city controlled by the Shi family. It was larger than Upper Forest City and had a larger population. This could be considered a large branch of the Shi family. Just the Shi family's disciples alone numbered in the tens of thousands. There were 4 branches of the Shi family here, each with considerable influence. They each had a large manor in the north, south, east, and west of Linchuan City. There was a lively market around the 4 manors of the Shi family. Wang Sheng rented a small storefront in the market outside the manor in the southern part of the city and opened a small clinic that specialized in treating bruises and injuries. The reason why he chose the south side of the city was because there was a small courtyard behind the small shop. Next to the courtyard was the source of the moat, a wide river. No matter what happened, as long as Wang Sheng dived into the river, it would be impossible to find Wang Sheng's shadow without tens of thousands of people. The small clinic was very low-key. Although it specialized in treating bruises, it did not sell medicine. It only said that it was an ancestral massage technique that could relax muscles and improve blood circulation. No one would pay much attention to it if it did not compete for the business of the big clinics. However, business never stopped at Wang Sheng's small clinic. Since he received the first patient, many people came to him in an endless stream. The Shi family was also a big family. Naturally, the disciples of the family had the conditions to cultivate. Just like on Earth, as long as one practiced martial arts, it was inevitable that they would bump into each other. Especially on the path of cultivation, it was impossible to practice alone. There had to be someone to spar with. Therefore, injuries were inevitable. Wang Sheng had received professional medical training on Earth. In order to improve his combat ability, he had specially studied human anatomy, bones, muscles, blood vessels, internal organs, and so on. Wang Sheng could be sure that in this world where alchemy was highly developed, people still regarded the dead as the most important and should not blaspheme the dead. There is absolutely no one who understood the internal structure of the human body better than he did. Of course, this was just the basics. The main point was that Wang Sheng had come up with a simple ancestral slogan: "Pass it, don't hurt, pass it, don't hurt." His clinic for injuries caused by falls was also based on this concept to treat patients. Not only the Shi family, as long as they had the conditions, they would choose to cultivate. Only with strength could they become a person above others. The more people who cultivated, the more injured they would be. If they were seriously injured, they would have to go to those clinics to buy pills at a high price to treat them. However, there was no need for minor injuries at all. Now that they saw a small clinic with low fees, they might be able to come in and give it a try. My arm is sprained. Fortunately, it is not dislocated. Wang Sheng grabbed the arm of a big man and slowly rubbed it. At the same time, he instructed, slowly transfer the spiritual energy from the shoulder to the arm. Slow down. As long as the spiritual energy is transferred, the injury will heal quickly. Pass it, don't hurt. If it hurts, don't pass it. Don't use too much force. Yes, inject the spiritual energy into my body. Be gentle. Do you feel better? Wang Sheng applied some medicinal oil on the red and swollen part of the big man's arm. This medicinal oil was also bought by Wang Sheng from a big clinic nearby. He mixed it with some oil and used it on these people. Naturally, this was also one of the reasons why the big clinic didn't find trouble with Wang Sheng, because Wang Sheng himself also bought the pills from the big clinic. Not only did he not steal business, he also took care of business. He was a good partner. Moreover, Wang Sheng only accepted those who didn't need to go to the big clinic for treatment. If there were serious injuries, he would take the initiative to send them to the big clinic nearby. Who would find trouble with him? As a senior ace sniper, Wang Sheng was extremely good at disguising. His current actions were that of an ordinary cultivator who had just reached the first-degree realm and came out to explore the world to find a small business to establish himself. He was not ostentatious, nor did he show off. He was very low-key. As Wang Sheng massaged the patient's body using the massage techniques from Earth, he guided the patient to slowly channel the spiritual energy into his body. In fact, it was to let the injured use the lightest method to attack himself. As for the spiritual energy that attacked himself, of course, Wang Sheng's Qi spirit would gladly accept it. Small mouthfuls of the spiritual energy were eaten happily, especially when Wang Sheng and the injured were in close contact. If the contact could be maintained for a quarter of an hour, the Qi spirit could even enter the body through Wang Sheng's hand to take a bite. Many times, bumps and bruises were caused during training. Although the injury was not serious, the injury was definitely caused by the spiritual energy attack. When the external spiritual energy was swallowed by the Qi kiss, coupled with Wang Sheng's massage and the nourishment of his own spiritual energy, the injury could not be healed too quickly. Basically, as long as it was not a serious fracture, after Wang Sheng's massage, the swelling would be reduced by half. After going back to sleep, the next morning, no one would be able to tell that he had been injured the day before. It was also because of such a strong curative effect that there were repeat customers and word of mouth. In a few days, people near the Sure family manor in the south of the city knew that there was such a small clinic. To be massaged by Wang Sheng, one had to launch spiritual energy attacks. Although he had to control the speed, after treatment, it was equivalent to a small battle, just not so fierce. After being massaged by Wang Sheng, the sweat and nourishment of spiritual energy made the whole body feel comfortable. Even if one was not injured, one could enjoy the massage in Wang Sheng's place, and the fatigue of the day would be gone. Half a month later, some of the cultivators who weren't injured would come over to have a massage from Wang Sheng. As more people knew, the business of Wang Sheng's shop became prosperous. Basically, from morning until dinner time, there would be a never-ending stream of people. Generally, one person would stay for a quarter of an hour at most. In a day, Wang Sheng had to receive about 30 or 40 people. Wang Sheng's fee was not expensive, only 50 copper coins per person. This price was simply free for those elixirs that often cost several or dozens of gold coins. If it weren't for the fact that his place was not good, the door would have been broken by the crowd. When others saw Wang Sheng massaging the injured with sweat all over his head and charging such a low fee, they might laugh at him for not knowing how to do business. But they didn't know that Wang Sheng was already very happy in his heart. Everyone had to contribute their own spiritual energy to attack Wang Sheng, and all the spiritual energy was accepted by Qi. The external spiritual energy was 10 times more efficient than the spiritual energy Wang Sheng absorbed by himself. Wang Sheng worked hard for a day, but with his current physical quality and strength, he was not tired at all. But the result was equivalent to practicing hard for 10 days. Where else could he find such a good thing? There was another gain that Wang Sheng didn't expect. Sometimes, these injured people could not control their spiritual energy well. Some were light, some were heavy. Although it did not hurt Wang Sheng, it was a solid spiritual energy attack every time. Under this almost non-stop light attack, Wang Sheng's body became more and more accustomed to external spiritual energy attacks. These injured people could be said to be training for Wang Sheng to increase Wang Sheng's resistance. It must be known that these guys not only did their own work, but also paid Wang Sheng 50 copper coins. Wang Sheng's heart almost bloomed with joy. In just a month's time, Wang Sheng's cheese-kissed source spirit had grown at least 5 times its original size. What was even more amazing was that when it opened its mouth, it was completely disproportionate to its body. Now, it was already half the size of the smallest mountain. Wang Sheng believed that after a while, the cheese-kissed source spirit would be able to swallow the smallest mountain in one gulp. Chapter 53. The path of cultivation was bumpy. This sentence was the same for everyone. Song Yan was a world-famous genius, the daughter of the patriarch, the eldest miss of the Song family. But when she was fusing with her source spirit, she was schemed against. It couldn't be any more bumpy. Therefore, when Wang Sheng encountered trouble, it wasn't surprising at all. There were both men and women among the cultivators, and the probability of a woman getting injured during practice was lower. This was because there was always a chance that the opponent would show mercy to the fairer sex and go easy on them, but it didn't mean that they wouldn't get injured. In order to avoid trouble, Wang Sheng only accepted male customers who knew what this woman's identity was or who was behind her, so he had to have physical contact with her when he massaged her. It wasn't a big deal for a man, but if a woman had a jealous fiancé or married husband, wouldn't that be a big problem? Even if most women heard of Wang Sheng's reputation, they wouldn't take the initiative to visit him. It was still necessary to keep a distance between men and women. However, there were women who were curious, especially those who had a bad temper. Of course, Wang Sheng declined. What a joke, with 4 or 5 flower protectors by his side, asking him to treat her. It wasn't treatment, it was to ruin his place. As soon as the woman made her request, Wang Sheng saw the 4 or 5 flower protectors had a warning look on their faces. It wasn't until Wang Sheng declined that their expressions became a little better. But this wasn't the end. This beautiful woman was obviously narrow-minded. She felt that Wang Sheng dared to refuse her because he didn't give her any face. She didn't feel that it was wrong for her to be taken advantage of. Even when she returned home, she still had a resentful look on her face. If this matter ended here, then it would just be a small interlude. However, there were people among the flower protectors who wanted to please the woman. So the person who angered the woman, Wang Sheng, naturally became the culprit. Shi Lixing was the protector of the flower. He was a very self-centered person. He did not think that Wang Sheng had done the right thing when he rejected him, even though he was quite satisfied with how tactful Wang Sheng was when he was present. However, since Sister Hua was angry, it was Wang Sheng's fault. It was not a big deal for him to teach Wang Sheng a lesson. The next day, just as Wang Sheng accepted his second job and was working hard, Shi Lixing barged into Wang Sheng's clinic with 4 or 5 lackeys. What Shi Lixing didn't expect was that his 2 lackeys were surrounded by a group of people the moment they kicked over 2 stools. There were at least a dozen people waiting in line for Wang Sheng's treatment. More than half of them were from the Shi family. Shi Lixing's group had caused trouble the moment they entered, so these people were naturally unhappy. They immediately surrounded them. "What are you doing? Are you looking for trouble?" They were all disciples of the Shi family, and although most of them were only in the first-degree realm, not many of them were afraid of Shi Lixing and his entourage. Shi Lixing was already in the early stages of the second-degree realm and was only 20 years old. He could be said to be one of the best among the younger generation. He didn't dare to say that he was a genius, but in Linchuan City, he was considered a little famous. He had intended to barge in and cause trouble before going to Sister Hua to claim credit. However, when he saw this shop, Shi Lixing realized that something was wrong. He wasn't an idiot or a fool. These people were waiting for Wang Sheng's treatment, and if he came to cause trouble, he would be disrespecting them. They were all disciples of the Shi family, and although their cultivation levels were lower than his, there were 2 among them who were heavily nurtured by the family. It wasn't worth it to hurt their relationship because of an outsider. "Lad, have you paid your respects before opening a shop here?" Thinking of that, Shi Lixing instantly found a way to solve the problem. He turned to Wang Sheng and questioned him. Wang Sheng had already stopped. He could tell that this guy was one of the 4 or 5 flower protectors who appeared yesterday. Judging from his attitude, he was here to cause trouble. "It's my first time here, and I don't know the rules. Please forgive me." Wang Sheng's attitude was very humble as he smiled apologetically at Shi Lixing. "Please tell me what to do. As long as it's within my means, I won't say a word." Wang Sheng's attitude was already giving Shi Lixing enough face. Shi Lixing was very smart and knew when to stop. He didn't notice that the person who had stopped halfway was glaring at him furiously. He didn't have a reason to come here, and he could use this as an excuse to get out of this embarrassing situation. "All right, hand over half of your income every month, and I, Shi Lixing, will take care of your shop." Shi Lixing had done similar things in the past. Anyway, this was the Shi family's turf, and it wasn't a big deal for the Shi family to bully others. Without another word, Wang Sheng picked up the basin he used to collect money and presented it to Shi Lixing. "All right, young master, please accept it." Wang Sheng didn't accept the copper coins that he earned these days. What a joke. He felt that the few thousand gold coins in his storage ring took up too much space. Wang Sheng normally wouldn't even look at these copper coins. He would only grab a handful of them when he wanted to pretend to buy some daily necessities. Now that they were all in front of Shi Lixing, Wang Sheng didn't feel any heartache at all. One of Shi Lixing's lackeys stepped forward to take the basin. This time, Shi Lixing didn't even have a reason to flare up. Seeing that the people in the queue didn't look too good, Shi Lixing could only leave in a hurry with his lackeys. Along the way, Shi Lixing felt depressed. Why did he feel like he was looking for trouble? Logically speaking, Wang Sheng had lowered his head, admitted defeat, and even paid the protection fee. No matter what, he should be happy. Why did he feel so aggrieved? It was as if he had a stomach full of anger and nowhere to vent it. Especially when he saw the expressions of the other Shi family members when he left, it was as if they were mocking him for taking advantage of a few dozen silver coins. Thinking of this, Shi Lixing was filled with anger. Lixing wanted to use this to curry favor with Hua Mei, but as soon as he said it, he was ridiculed by his rivals in love. Even Hua Mei looked at him with disdain, which made Lixing secretly angry. He originally wanted to please Hua Mei, but Hua Mei also despised him. Wasn't he being a busybody? Depressed, Lixing could only find a place to drink with his lackeys. They drank until the sky turned dark, then staggered back home. There was no one on the streets. At this time, it could be said to be empty except for Lixing and his lackeys. This was the Shi family's Linchuan city. It was close to the manor in the south of the city, so the Shi family members naturally felt safe. Lixing and his group thought so too. However, they didn't walk far before they were attacked. Bam bam, the two drunken lackeys were knocked to the ground by the attackers. Before the remaining three could react, the attacker had already rushed forward and punched them 3 times. The 3 of them fell to the ground silently. Lixing's strength was the highest at the early stage of the second stage. When the attack appeared, he was shocked and broke out in cold sweat. This time, he sobered up by at least half. Once he activated his spiritual energy, the remaining alcohol was forced out by more than half. By the time the attacker knocked out all the lackeys, Lixing had regained his fighting strength. The attacker was, of course, Wang Sheng. He wasn't the kind of person who would tolerate being bullied. This wasn't a mission. If he was exposed here, he could just change to another place. Lixing didn't have the ability to cover the sky with one hand, let alone put him on the wanted list. So what if Lixing had that kind of influence? The Dai family used their family's power to hunt him down, but didn't they let him leave easily? This guy needed to be taught a lesson. Wang Sheng left him as the last one to teach him a good lesson. Of course, it was also an opportunity for him to cultivate for a month. Thus, the poor Lixing met a tragedy. Wang Sheng used him as a punching bag, and Lixing wasn't as strong as Lao Yusong, so he was completely defeated. Even Lao Yusong, who didn't use his spiritual energy, was beaten up by Wang Sheng's fist and combat skills on Earth. At that time, Wang Sheng had just used those fist skills and hadn't been optimized by the Combat Consciousness Avatar. It had been a few months since then, and the Combat Consciousness Avatar had optimized at least 3 sets of killer moves. Now, all of them were used by Wang Sheng on Lixing. Of course, Wang Sheng didn't use his spiritual energy to attack. He was only testing his moves on Lixing. Lixing could use his spirit chi to protect himself, and he could also use his spirit chi to counterattack. However, his movements were not as fast as Wang Sheng's. In fact, as soon as he made a move, Wang Sheng and the little person with combat awareness had already grasped his flaws and directly launched a fierce counterattack. In less than 10 breaths of time, Lixing had already suffered more than 20 blows. Lixing took a few fierce blows from Wang Sheng and fought back with all his might. In the end, he hit Wang Sheng with all his strength, but Wang Sheng didn't seem to feel it and only attacked the most painful parts of Lixing's body. After a few blows, Lixing lay on the ground in pain. There wasn't a part of his body that didn't hurt, especially the few blows on his chest and stomach. He almost couldn't breathe. The only thing that was slightly better than the 5 lackeys was that he didn't faint and could still feel the pain clearly. After easily teaching Lixing a lesson, Wang Sheng left like a ghost, leaving Lixing and the rest lying on the ground, moaning in pain. Until the next day, when Lixing was rescued by his family, his body was still in pain. Wang Sheng's attacks were very accurate. There weren't any particularly serious injuries, but Lixing was in unbearable pain. His whole body was bruised, and he almost couldn't move. However, Lixing suddenly remembered that in 2 days, he would be competing with another disciple of the Shi family in the north of the city. How could he participate in the competition in this state? For a moment, Lixing even suspected that the reason he was beaten up that night was because of the people from the north of the city. Was it because they wanted to stop him from participating in the competition? Without internal injuries, it wasn't worth using healing pills. They could only use some external pills, but the effect wasn't that good. At this time, someone gave him a solution. There was a young man in a small clinic in the south of the city who was very good at massaging. He could handle this kind of injury in a day, and he would be as good as new. When Lixing arrived at the entrance of the small clinic, he was dumbfounded. This small clinic was none other than Wang Sheng's. Yesterday, he had bullied Wang Sheng for no reason. Today, he had to beg Wang Sheng for help. It was really embarrassing. Chapter 54. I can't treat this injury. As Lixing expected, when Wang Sheng saw that it was Lixing, he looked at his injuries and shook his head. You should go to the clinic next door. Use some good pills, and I believe you'll recover soon. Wang Sheng tried to hold back his laughter, but he gave a sincere suggestion. Lixing's appearance was too satisfying. His face was covered in dirt and bruises. If it wasn't for the cloth covering his head, he probably wouldn't have dared to step out of the house. Even so, a man with a veil on his head was enough to make people stare at him as if they were looking at a Western scenery. Experiencing that feeling once was enough. Lixing didn't want to experience it a second time. He knew that he wasn't liked by Wang Sheng, but he had a favor to ask, so he had to humble himself first. It wasn't that he hadn't thought of beating up Wang Sheng in a domineering way before making him accept the treatment. However, there were so many people waiting in line, and they were all from the Shi family. They wouldn't allow him to do it. There were already some people who were complaining about the beating yesterday. If Wang Sheng left Linchuan City because of this, they wouldn't be able to enjoy such a comfortable massage anymore. Here are 2 gold coins. It should be enough to make up for your losses yesterday. Lixing threw out 2 gold coins. It was at least double the amount he got from Wang Sheng yesterday. If you can help me reduce the swelling and relieve the pain today, I'll give you another 2 gold coins. The gazes of the crowd made Lixing want to dig a hole in the ground. They must be laughing at their own humility, laughing at themselves for shooting themselves in the foot. After today, he would get rid of Wang Sheng tomorrow and let him know the consequences of manipulating him. Lixing thought hatefully, but the smile on his face grew brighter. Some of the Shi family disciples who were familiar with Lixing's sighed inwardly when they saw his smile. It was such a pity for Wang Sheng. Even though they didn't know Wang Sheng's name, they had enjoyed a lot from Wang Sheng. What a pity. I need some special herbs to reduce the swelling and pain in a day. Wang Sheng didn't make things difficult for Lixing. He replied with a smile, I don't have enough money in my shop. How much do you need? Take it from me? Lixing was very amicable after he made up his mind. Wang Sheng was destined to be a dead man anyway. He could get it back from him the next day. It wasn't a waste to let Wang Sheng keep it for him. Those who didn't know what was going on laughed when they saw how Wang Sheng easily extorted another 10 gold coins from Lixing. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have done that yesterday. Wang Sheng didn't hold back at all. He didn't feel any pressure taking Lixing's gold coins. He casually weighed the gold coins in his hand and walked to the back. No one knew what he did, but when he came out, he had a bottle of something that was said to be made of super herbs. He asked Lixing to take off his clothes and lie on his stomach. The people in the queue laughed again. Lixing's body was covered in bruises. No one knew how he got beaten up like this. Fortunately, no one laughed out loud. They just snickered. Wang Sheng poured a bottle of super herbs that was no different from ordinary medicine on Lixing's body. He began to instruct Lixing to pour his spiritual energy into his body and cooperate with the massage. How could the experienced Wang Sheng not feel the killing intent hidden under Lixing's smile? But Lixing definitely wouldn't make a move at the beginning. If he did, who would treat him? Wang Sheng boldly let Lixing pour his spiritual energy into his body and controlled his chi-kiss spirit to swallow it. This guy was an expert in the second-degree realm. His spiritual energy was much richer than ordinary first-degree realm cultivators. The chi-kiss spirit could only swallow a small portion at a time. It took a long time to digest, but the effect was much better. One swallowing was comparable to swallowing 5 first-degree realm cultivators' spiritual energy. Wang Sheng was very skillful. He started by helping Lixing to unblock his limbs. Only after his limbs were all done did he start to massage his head and torso. In this way, even if Lixing suddenly attacked, Wang Sheng wouldn't be seriously injured by his head and torso. Of course, if Lixing was smart, he wouldn't make a move at this time. Not to mention the effect of the treatment. Wang Sheng's hands were massaging his neck and chest. If he made a move, he would be seeking death. Lixing alone took up 4 people's time. But Lixing himself was very satisfied with the effect of the massage. In less than an hour, the pain on his body was reduced by more than half. The bruises had also subsided. According to Wang Sheng, he would be fine after a night's sleep. If it wasn't for this guy's lack of tact, Lixing would have spared Wang Sheng's life. Unfortunately, since Wang Sheng dared to take his money and made him feel embarrassed, then Wang Sheng had to die. Otherwise, his rivals in love would laugh at Lixing to death. A quiet day passed. Night came and Linchuan City quickly fell into peace. Wang Sheng had already prepared everything and was about to head out to visit Lixing's residence. Suddenly, a faint sound rang out, causing Wang Sheng to grow wary. Wang Sheng nimbly jumped onto the roof beam and stood there quietly. 2 tiles on the roof had already been pushed away. Through the holes left behind by the 2 tiles, Wang Sheng could see what was happening in both directions. It was dark outside. Even with Wang Sheng's enhanced vision, he couldn't see anything. He took out the infrared binoculars and turned them on. Then, a few jumping red figures appeared in Wang Sheng's field of vision. Looking at their movements, these guys were clearly well-trained. Their movements were agile. One of them was very vigilant. He seemed to have sensed that Wang Sheng was looking at him. He even glanced at Wang Sheng. After staring in that direction for a while, he suspiciously turned his head and continued. Wang Sheng's lips curled into a disdainful smile. In the middle of the night, they were at least tens of meters away. Trying to see Wang Sheng through the gaps of the roof tiles? It wasn't that Wang Sheng looked down on him, but even 10 of him wouldn't be able to do it. There were about 7 or 8 people in this group. After a brief meeting, they split up and rushed in different directions. With such a group of mysterious guys around, Wang Sheng wasn't in a hurry to find trouble with Lixing. He wanted to see what else this Linchuan City had that would warrant such a group of infiltrators to act so stealthily. What amused Wang Sheng the most was that someone was obviously watching Wang Sheng's residence. Needless to say, it must have been sent by Lixing. He was afraid that Wang Sheng would escape, or for some other reason. In short, he had been watching. Little did he know that Wang Sheng had long discovered that he was being watched. It was a piece of cake for him to escape. However, Wang Sheng didn't do so. It was obvious that something was going to happen in Linchuan City tonight. He just had to sit back and watch the show. The next morning, Wang Sheng opened the door of the clinic as usual. He washed up, ate his breakfast, and waited for the patients. However, the situation today was obviously not normal. There were not many people. On the contrary, there were many family disciples patrolling the streets with weapons in their hands, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. It wasn't easy for him to see a familiar little fellow patrolling the area. Wang Sheng greeted him and prepared some tea for him. The little guy was also tired. He asked a few of his companions to sit with him and rest. Wang Sheng didn't ask what was going on, and they took the initiative to talk about it. Someone died in the family's manor. It was the manor in the west of the city. A second-stage cultivator died. He died in his own room on his own bed. It was said that he was slashed in his sleep. No one in such a huge manor found out. The Linchuan clan's 4 branch clan leaders were all on high alert, especially the clan's west side. The clan leader was enraged. Not only did someone sneak in and kill someone, he even walked away without anyone noticing. If it wasn't for that young man, but for him, the clan leader, wouldn't he have been able to kill him as well? Lixing is in trouble. The little guy didn't see what happened yesterday, but he knew that Lixing was looking for trouble with Wang Sheng to collect protection fees. So he specially told Wang Sheng. The young man who died in the manor in the west of the city happened to be another suitor of Huang Mei, Lixing's rival in love. Some things were afraid to be connected. The day before, Lixing was beaten up. Before the murderer was found, his rival in love died. There was an inexplicable connection between the two, especially since Lixing had sent someone out last night. It was probably an arrangement targeted at Wang Sheng. However, if someone found out that he had sent someone, Lixing would become the biggest suspect. The Sher family in the west of the city was naturally unwilling to accept the death of their disciple. They immediately went to Lixing and demanded an explanation from a Sher family in the south. Although they were all branches of the Sher family, they were all outside of the 5 regions and had a distant relationship. Once a commotion broke out, it immediately became tense. Revenge and eradicating a rival in love were the 2 most likely reasons. Both were pinned on Lixing. Lixing couldn't be bothered to find trouble with Wang Sheng. He had to clear his name first. Wang Sheng was happy on the outside, and so was his heart, but he still had some doubts. Who were those people last night? Why would they do such a thing? Wang Sheng didn't see any familiar faces in Linchuan City. Even if they were targeting Wang Sheng, they wouldn't be so stupid as to kill someone from the Sher family to attract attention. There must be a reason for the murder. Another day passed in a tense atmosphere. At night, Wang Sheng sensed movement again and saw the group of people. The next day, Wang Sheng heard the news that another person died. This time, it was another rival in love, a young man from the Sher family in the east of the city. Things were getting more and more interesting. Chapter 55. Now that something had happened in Linchuan City, fewer people came to Wang Sheng for treatment. However, it wasn't that there weren't any. Wang Sheng still had 5 or 6 cultivators coming to him every day for his help. At this time, the healthier the better. The 4 branch leaders met and argued with each other. 2 of them wanted the Southern Sher clan to hand over Lixing for investigation. Of course, the Southern Sher clan wasn't willing. After a stalemate, they parted on bad terms. Over the next few days, due to the tight security, there were no more deaths. However, in Wang Sheng's view, it wasn't the Sher clan's work. It was because those mysterious people didn't show up at all. They seemed to have appeared to disrupt the order of Linchuan City, but coincidentally, they had a relationship with Lixing. Thus, in for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. The second murder confirmed the entanglement of jealousy. No one would kill for no reason. There must be a reason. Wang Sheng was waiting for the moment when the Sher clan would relax. One could be a thief for 1,000 days, but not a thief for 1,000 days. He believed that those mysterious people were also waiting for this opportunity. Just as Wang Sheng expected, the Sher clan slowly calmed down after a few days of tension. Linchuan City also slowly regained its order. Wang Sheng's customers also increased. He didn't know if it was because of the influence of those things, but the number of injuries during these 2 days had increased. For more than 10 days, Wang Sheng's schedule was full every day. He even had to drag it out at night. The chibi source spirit had eaten a feast these days. Its big mouth had opened up a lot. It was about to swallow the smallest boulder, but it was still 1 step away. Seeing this, Wang Sheng understood that he had reached a small bottleneck. Just relying on his own cultivation and absorbing spiritual energy from others was not enough to break through. He needed another opportunity. Wang Sheng was very patient. He wasn't in a hurry to break through. At the same time, he was patiently waiting for those mysterious people to appear again. Wang Sheng's patience was not wasted. After waiting for a few more days, the mysterious people finally appeared again. However, it was obvious that Wang Sheng wasn't the only patient one. The 4 branch families of the Linchuan Sher family were also patient enough. This time, the mysterious man couldn't kill them as easily as he did the previous 2 times. Not long after they separated, Wang Sheng heard the commotion in the Sher family's manor in the south of the city. There were flames everywhere, and countless people were shouting and yelling, killing and yelling, which filled half of Linchuan City. From here, he could only hear the movements of the Sher family in the south of the city. He did not know what was going on in the other directions, but judging from the red light in the night, he was sure that there were fires in all 4 directions. A figure stumbled and ran on the street outside, followed by a group of experts chasing after him. Looking at his running posture, it was obvious that he was injured. In Wang Sheng's field of vision through the infrared binoculars, he could clearly see the outline of the guy who was running away. What was even more amazing was that there was a figure curled up in a corner where he passed by. When the escaping guy passed by the figure, he obviously threw something in his hand to the curled-up figure. The figure in the red light caught the thing and didn't move, letting the guy run away and lead the group of people chasing after him. After that, the guy kept hiding in that corner, not moving at all. It was not until two groups of people chasing after him passed by the street that he got up carefully and tiptoed to the riverbank. In Wang Sheng's binoculars, the guy carefully hid something under the water, then looked around and left quickly when he found that there was no one around. The river where he hid the thing was next to the backyard of Wang Sheng's small medical center. The guy who hid the thing thought that it was dark in the middle of the night, but he didn't know that Wang Sheng was watching him from the beginning. Wang Sheng waited for more than an hour, and all kinds of noises were heard from one side to the other. When no one was paying attention to this direction, Wang Shengkai carefully flipped over and silently dived into the river. In the place where the guy hid the thing, Wang Sheng searched for a while and found a metal box the size of a brick, which was embedded in a gap by the riverbank. Without saying anything, Wang Sheng took the metal box in his hand. With a thought, the metal box was put into Wang Sheng's storage ring. Now, unless someone caught Wang Sheng and obtained Wang Sheng's storage ring, no one would know where the metal box was hidden. After getting out of the water and returning to his small courtyard, Wang Sheng blocked the window, lit the oil lamp, and took out the metal box to check it. The square metal box was made of a very strange metal. Wang Sheng couldn't tell what it was made of under the oil lamp. What he could be sure of was that it must be very strong and waterproof. Otherwise, it wouldn't be placed under the water. There was a small hole on each of the four sides of the metal box, which looked like a keyhole. He shook it lightly, but there was nothing moving inside. He couldn't tell what was inside from the outside, but there must be something important inside. Otherwise, those mysterious guys wouldn't have spent so much time and effort to get it, and they hid it so carefully. Taking out a few thin metal wires from a military watch, Wang Sheng fiddled with the four keyholes a few times, and a smile appeared on his face. It was just four linked locks, which required four different keys to be twisted at the same time to open. The lock was very delicate, especially on such a small box. It needed to be strong and safe. It was obviously the work of a master. Unfortunately, such a delicate thing in this world was just like a toy in the eyes of Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng didn't know how many kinds of sophisticated safes on Earth. How could a pure mechanical structure without any electronic protection stop Wang Sheng? Compared to the time on Earth, Wang Sheng's senses were more sensitive, and his hands were steadier. He could also use the help of his aura to control the thin wire more exquisitely. His lockpicking skills had improved by more than 1 or 2 points. Just by relying on the feeling of his hands, Wang Sheng didn't even need a stethoscope to listen to the mechanical sound inside. He found the trick of lockpicking. It only took 20 minutes, and the four linked locks were opened by Wang Sheng with 3 thin wires one by one. Kacha, a slight sound, and a thin seam appeared on the metal box. It had to be said that this metal box was really delicate. Unless the lock was opened, it was just a metal brick and no seam could be seen. It could be waterproof, and the craftsmanship was very unusual. He exerted a little force from the seam, and the metal plate above was taken off, revealing the contents inside. The box was originally the size of a brick, and with such a complicated lock structure, the space inside was actually very limited. In a space smaller than a fist, there was a rolled animal skin scroll. The animal skin scroll almost occupied the entire space. No wonder there was no sound when Wang Sheng shook it. Picking out the animal skin scroll, Wang Sheng carefully opened it. Looking at the contents, Wang Sheng was speechless. If it was some advanced cultivation secret book, Wang Sheng might be a little interested. Or maybe it was some advanced elixir recipe or some kind of manufacturing process, which was worth keeping in such a box. Unfortunately, the animal skin scroll did not record these, but only a map. Strictly speaking, it was only half a map. Because there was only half of the animal skin scroll, there was a very smooth edge, which was obviously cut by a sharp weapon, and many lines on it disappeared. It was the kind of backward and low-level original map without scale and contour lines. The lines on it were drawn very complicated with thick and thin lines, and there were a few red dots in some places. There were no words in the whole scroll, and it was really unprofessional. Wang Sheng shook his head, but still carefully looked at it. During the special training, there was special training to memorize maps. This level of map did not require strict precision, and Wang Sheng could completely memorize it in 10 seconds at most. However, to be safe, after memorizing it in his mind, Wang Sheng still took out the combat terminal and used the built-in camera to take a picture. A good memory was not as good as a bad pen. He did not know when this map would be used, so it was just right to record it in the combat terminal. Of course, the reason why he dared to record it was because the combat terminal had a solar charging function, so Wang Sheng did not have to worry about the terminal running out of power and not being able to open it. After making a double insurance, Wang Sheng wanted to directly put them in a new rag, but after thinking about it, he carefully rolled the animal skin scroll according to its size and put it back in the small space. He put the metal plate back, aligned it, and pressed it hard. After 4 slight clicking sounds, the box was locked again. While no one was around, Wang Sheng dived into the water again and carefully stuffed the metal box back into the gap under the water. Such an important thing, there would definitely be a lot of people fighting to find it. He just had to wait for the good show when the sun rose. After doing all this, Wang Sheng erased all traces related to himself and carefully returned to his room. Thinking about the good show he might get to watch tomorrow, Wang Sheng could not help but secretly laugh. If those mysterious people knew that he could easily see the contents of the thing that they spent so much effort to create, he wondered how they would feel. After resting for less than an hour, Wang Sheng was awakened by the noise outside. The Sher clan of Linchuan City seemed to have gone mad. They were frantically searching along the route that the thief had taken last night. All the courtyards along the way were searched without a care in the world. Wang Sheng's small courtyard was also broken into at least 4 times and was turned upside down. When they could not find anything, they left resentfully. The torment lasted from midnight until it was almost afternoon. Only then did it stop. In the afternoon, the Sher family released the news in Linchuan City, offering a high reward for finding an exquisite Ling Long seal box from the Pavilion of Delicacy. From their description, it was the metal box from last night. No one can open the 4 elements Ling Long seal box. Without the 4 keys, it is useless. The Sher family member who released the news announced in Linchuan City, whoever sees the Ling Long seal box and hands it to the Sher family will be rewarded with 10,000 gold coins. Chapter 56. Wang Sheng was also listening. When he heard that the 4-aspect exquisite box was useless to anyone, he almost laughed out loud. Of course, the craftsmanship of the Pavilion of Delicacy was indeed perfect. The thieves in this world might not be as strong as this, but the most important reason was that they didn't have the exquisite tools like Wang Sheng. Although they were only 4 thin steel wires, there was no other material in this world that could be so flexible and as thin as a hair. To do a good job, one must first sharpen his tools. Without suitable tools, it would be strange if one could open it. Because of the reward offered by the Sher family, many people became interested in the exquisite box. Naturally, those who knew about it were eager to show off their knowledge to the public. Listening to the gossip of others, Wang Sheng finally understood the origin of the box. The masters of the Pavilion of Delicacy had once made a batch of metal boxes for keeping official seals for the imperial court. That was how the exquisite box got its name. However, because of the safety of the exquisite box, many people who obtained it later didn't use it to keep official seals, but to store more precious things. The exquisite box with 1 lock was called the 1-phase exquisite box, and the one with 4 locks was called the 4-phase exquisite box. The more locks there were, the more exquisite the mechanism inside. The 4-phase exquisite box was almost the best safe in this era. Even if the box was stolen, the Sher family didn't seem to worry that the things inside would be lost. It was said that even the master who made the exquisite box couldn't open it without the key. Moreover, there was an extremely complicated corrosive and destructive mechanism inside. If the box was opened by any means other than the key, the corrosive liquid stored inside would directly corrode the things inside. With such a guarantee of safety, It was no wonder that the Sher family didn't have to worry about someone opening the box without the key. Poor people. Wang Sheng shook his head in his heart. People who had never seen the world were really pitiful. The masters of the Pavilion of Delicacy were also pitiful. The great safety reputation that they had built with several generations of hard work might be ruined by Wang Sheng. Of course, as long as Wang Sheng didn't say anything, no one would know about it. Wang Sheng broke into a cold sweat after listening to their descriptions. He didn't expect the Ling Long seal box to have a corrosive self-destruct design. He really was ignorant and fearless, opening it without thinking. Fortunately, Wang Sheng's craftsmanship was not bad. He did not trigger the self-destruct switch. Otherwise, the animal skin inside would have turned into a pool of liquid. By the time he finished listening to everyone's gossip, the sky had already turned dark. The Sher family had been busy for a day and a night, and now they were tired. The number of people on the street gradually decreased, and the surrounding shops also began to close. However, Wang Sheng's gaze sharpened. There were more than a dozen people walking down the street. There were people on both sides of the street. There was also movement coming from the courtyard behind. It could be said that all of Wang Sheng's exits were blocked. The leader was Sher Lixing, who had caused trouble for Wang Sheng a few days ago and was taught a lesson by Wang Sheng. Now that the four-phase exquisite seal box had been stolen, it could be said that Sher Lixing's suspicions were cleared. Those people wanted to cause trouble for the Sher family and then take advantage of the chaos to steal the four-phase exquisite seal box. When the Sher family was busy looking for the exquisite seal box, Sher Lixing remembered that he wanted to teach Wang Sheng a lesson. He had been under a lot of pressure before, but now that his name was cleared, he naturally wanted to vent all of his anger. Wang Sheng became the first person he wanted to teach a lesson to. Only to Wang Sheng. This lesson would be unforgettable, because after being taught a lesson, he would probably die, so naturally he would not forget it. His source spirit had reached a bottleneck in absorbing spiritual energy. Although he could still absorb spiritual energy by massaging, it did not help his source spirit much. Wang Sheng already had plans to leave. This wasn't the time for Wang Sheng to leave, even though they were at the cusp of a storm. But now it seemed that Sher Lixing would not let him go because of a small matter, so he had no choice but to leave. "You're dead." Sher Lixing did not hide his killing intent at all. He looked at Wang Sheng, who was standing there not knowing what to do, and said with a sinister smile, "You dare to not put me in your eyes. You're dead. The people who have died recently are all related to me. You have a grudge against me, so you're the biggest suspect." Sher Lixing looked at Wang Sheng, who was standing there with his back straight, as though he was in a daze. Feeling elated, he said, "Don't worry. I will label you as a suspect. After I kill you, the family will give me the reward I deserve. If you know what's good for you, kneel down and beg for mercy now. Maybe I can let you go." When he got closer, Sher Lixing was already not too far away from Wang Sheng, about one zhang away. He suddenly wanted to see the scene of Wang Sheng begging for mercy. Sher Lixing said this in a very magnanimous tone, completely forgetting that his first sentence was "You're dead for sure." Among the Sher family disciples who followed Sher Lixing, two of them were also in the second stage realm. They blocked the back and the other side of the street. Including Sher Lixing himself, there were 3 second stage realm experts. The rest were all first stage realm followers, a total of more than 10. They were here to use Wang Sheng as a person and, at the same time, to show off their strength after being cleared of suspicion. Wang Sheng seemed to have fallen for it. He really thought that Sher Lixing would let him go, so he slowly walked towards Sher Lixing with a struggling expression on his face. The other 2 second stage realm experts stopped in their tracks. They each brought a few followers and stood about 10 steps away, watching the show with their arms crossed. Other than them, there was no one else on the street. The merchants had already closed their doors. Even if they wanted to look, they could only sneak a peek. No one dared to step out and say a word. In fact, this was what Sher Lixing wanted to achieve. He wanted to establish his dominance, to let people know that he was the rising star of the Sher family. Wang Sheng was his tool to establish his dominance. Wang Sheng took a few steps forward. When he was about a meter away from Sher Lixing, his slow movements suddenly became extremely fast. Bang! Wang Sheng's fist landed on the throat of the complacent Shi Lixing. Shi Lixing's throat emitted a bone-chilling cracking sound as a result of the huge force. Wang Sheng's punch was several times stronger than Tyson's strongest punch on Earth. An accelerated straight punch had at least 4,000 pounds, which was about 1,800 kilograms of force. An unguarded, ordinary person would die with a single punch. Even if a cultivator did not use spiritual energy to protect himself, this punch was enough to break his spine. Not to mention that Wang Sheng's punch not only contained physical strength, but also spiritual energy. The unguarded Shi Lixing's throat was simply the best target at this distance. Whether it was Wang Sheng himself or the little man with combat awareness, they both chose to attack the throat. With the power of Jeet Kune Do, Shi Lixing's cervical vertebra was directly shattered. "You can't even take a punch from me. I really don't know where your arrogance comes from." Wang Sheng's figure had already retreated rapidly. The crowd only heard Wang Sheng's sarcastic words. Everything had happened too quickly, and the Shi family had the absolute advantage. No one had expected the cooked duck to fly. From the moment Wang Sheng attacked to the moment he retreated, no one had reacted. Everyone was still waiting to see Wang Sheng being wantonly played by Shi Lixing. How did it turn out like this? Wang Sheng's movements were too fast. Even Shi Lixing himself could only raise his hand to cover his throat. His throat made a few choking sounds, and then there was no other sound. The people with poor eyesight only saw Shi Lixing suddenly cover his throat. His legs gave way, and he knelt on the ground. Then, his body fell forward, and he remained motionless. Those with good eyesight saw the punch, but it was too late to do anything. The 2-second stage, Shi family experts reacted the fastest. Almost at the same time as Wang Sheng made his move, they also started to move. Although they couldn't help Shi Lixing, they still had a chance to catch the escaping Wang Sheng. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng had already stayed here for 2 months. How could he not have set up any traps? The reason why he retreated was not to enter the house, but to break a wooden stick that was as thick as an arm. The 2-second stage experts had just pounced over when their eyes revealed a look of fear. They took a deep breath in midair and controlled their bodies to move slightly to the side. Pung! One of them dodged quickly and brushed past the sharp wooden stick that flew up. However, the other was not so lucky and was unable to dodge. He could only forcefully use his spiritual chi to protect his body and take the hit. Fortunately, he had already moved slightly to the side, and the spiritual chi had helped to block most of the force. The wooden stick didn't cause much damage to him. It only scratched his skin a little. However, he was able to withstand the blow. While he was in the air, he was hit by the wooden stick and fell to the ground with a thud. Boom! As the others rushed forward, something exploded in several directions, and then the entire courtyard and half of the street were shrouded in white fog. It was the lime powder that Wang Sheng had prepared. How could Wang Sheng not prepare such a cheap and good item that could hide his tracks at the same time? In the 2 months he had been here, he had prepared enough to cover half of the street in white fog. However, the first expert to evade was quick. With a flick of his hand, a dart flew towards Wang Sheng's back. Wang Sheng felt something was wrong and quickly ducked his head to avoid the dart. The cloth wrapped around his head was taken away by the dart, revealing Wang Sheng's not very long hair. While everyone was in a flurry, Wang Sheng's figure had already disappeared. It was nighttime, and with the addition of the lime fog, although the people here were all disciples of the Shi family, their familiarity with this place couldn't be compared to Wang Sheng, who had been here for 2 months. When Wang Sheng's figure had already silently entered the river, a group of people were still on guard, afraid that Wang Sheng would take advantage of the chaos to launch a sneak attack. Chapter 57. The Southern Shi clan's young expert was killed on the street, and the murderer escaped. This was obviously a blatant disregard for the Shi clan. How could this be tolerated? Not just the Southern Shi clan, even the Shi clans of the 4 gates of Linchuan City were mobilized. Although they usually fought fiercely, they were still the same branch of the Shi clan. Even if the bones were broken, the tendons were still connected. Of course, there was a more important reason, and that was the stolen four-aspect exquisite box. The reason why the four branches of the Shur clan could live peacefully in Linchuan City despite the constant conflicts was because of this four-aspect exquisite box. Inside was a foundation left by the common ancestor of the four branches of the Shur clan. Hidden inside was half a peerless treasure map. In order to protect this half of the map, the four branches of the Shur clan had been suppressed by the Shur clan for many years. But as long as they had this half of the map, the main family had to protect their status. Even if they were banished to this small border city, they would still have what they deserved. The four-aspect exquisite box had four locks, so of course there were four keys. These four keys were kept in the hands of the leaders of the four branches of the Shur clan. The box itself was kept by the four branches in turn, and this year, it was the Southern Shur clan's turn. The theft of the four-aspect exquisite box could be said to have dug out the roots of the four branches of the Shur clan. No matter what happened, it would cause the Shur clan to go crazy. Wang Sheng's murder on the street was of course a slap in the face to the four branches of the Shur clan. So it was not surprising that the whole city would be searched. Soon, someone discovered that Wang Sheng had left by the waterway. This was not because Wang Sheng was careless, but because he deliberately left traces. The place where the traces were left was the place where the mysterious group of people hid the four-aspect exquisite box. As long as they went into the water and searched carefully, they would definitely be able to find the four-aspect exquisite box. Those people had done a good deed, but they let Wang Sheng take the blame. Wang Sheng was not that easy to deal with, so of course he would find some trouble for them. Sure enough, just as the Shur clan was about to send their swimmers into the water, someone on the other side could not sit still. A sudden volley of crossbow bolts killed more than 10 of the Shur clan's four clans on the riverbank. Who would have thought that there would be such a drastic change when the Shur family was pursuing the murderer, Wang Sheng? The Shur family was dumbfounded. It wasn't until they saw a man in black jump into the water and take out something that made the Shur family go crazy. Everyone's eyes turned red. The four aspects exquisite seal box, the thing they had been searching for a few days, was actually hidden in the river. The people nearby immediately shouted, and within a few minutes, everyone in the Shur clan of Lin Chuan had received the news. There were not many men in black, only a dozen or so in total. How could they be a match for the entire Shur family? Even if they were all top exponents, and the weakest among them was at least a second-degree realm peak. But after all, two fists were unable to fight against four hands, and even an expert would not be able to fight against so many people. Moreover, the Shur family members seemed to be going all out in killing frenzy. So no matter how powerful the black-robed men were, they could only swallow their grievances one by one. When the companions around him fell one by one, the leader of the black-clothed men also knew that this mission was a failure. The only consolation was that they didn't expose their identities and no one knew which powerhouse they belonged to. How hateful. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Sheng had escaped from the water, he wouldn't have exposed the location of the seal box. As long as the news blew over, he would naturally be able to escape with the seal box. But when Wang Sheng jumped into the water, it ruined the plan which they had painstakingly laid out. Could this be blamed on Wang Sheng? They were clear about the matter between Wang Sheng and Shi Lixing, so they couldn't blame Wang Sheng at all. Wang Sheng was the one who had caused the undeserved calamity. The black-robed men had always been hiding in the market, and one of the shops was their secret hideout. They had stayed in Linchuan City for a total of 3 years just for this matter. Previously, when Shi Lixing came to find trouble with Wang Sheng, they had all seen it with their own eyes. Later on, they used Shi Lixing's name to kill his love rival and stir up the Shur family's 4 families. The reason why Wang Sheng could see them with his infrared binoculars a few times was also because they were hiding here. This time, when Shi Lixing came to kill Wang Sheng, they were even watching the show from the crack of the door. While they were gloating, they didn't expect that misfortune would befall them in the next moment. Since he knew that he couldn't escape, the leader of the black-clothed men steeled his heart. He raised the sharp blade in his hand and used all the spiritual energy in his body to stab the four-aspect exquisite seal box. If the four-aspect exquisite seal box was taken back by the Sure family's four families, they would definitely learn a lesson and guard it strictly. It wouldn't be so easy to steal again. Since they couldn't get it, the black-clothed men wouldn't leave it for others. They might as well just destroy it. Thief, how dare you? The Sure family disciples who saw this scene were so angry that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Even if they didn't know what was inside, they knew what they had been searching for these past few days. If the seal box was stabbed by this blade, what would happen to it? The reason why the exquisite seal box was used to store important things was because of its exceptional safety features. The safest part was that once it was opened by any method other than using a key or forcefully breaking it open, the corrosive liquid stored inside would corrode everything inside. The bee skin map would definitely not be able to withstand this kind of corrosion and would definitely turn into a pool of black water. In this way, the Sure family's top exponents, who had some reservations about taking action, finally made their move. Swoosh! A piercing sound was heard. The black-clothed leader's blade had yet to stab the exquisite pavilion seal box when it seemed to be hit by a huge force, and with a crisp clang, it broke into two. Not only that, the black-clothed man's arm seemed to have been struck by lightning. After twitching for a moment, there was a soft sound of bones breaking, and it immediately drooped down softly, unable to use any more strength. Everyone then saw a man rushing over like a galloping horse from afar. He was the clan leader of the Sure family in the southern part of the city. Many people thought that the clan leader was only in the early stage of the fourth-degree realm. Who would have thought that when facing a third-degree realm black-clothed man, at such a distance, with just one strike, the black-clothed man lost the ability to resist? According to this estimation, the clan leader's cultivation should be at least in the late stage of the fourth-degree realm. The black-clothed man laughed bitterly in his heart. He had wanted to destroy the seal box, but he had actually seen the true cultivation of the clan leader of the southern part of the city. It seemed that the other three clan leaders might not be weak. This time he had really made a mistake. However, the black-clothed man had endured for so many years just for the seal box. How could he give up just like that? Without thinking, the hand that was holding the seal box suddenly swung up and smashed toward a piece of rock on the ground. How dare you? The clan leader of the southern part of the city was about to rush over here. When he saw this, he was furious and flicked his finger again. A piece of jade ornament on his body was swiftly pulled off and flicked out. This time, the jade ornament was aimed directly at the black-clothed man's head. As long as he died, the spiritual energy would be cut off and the exquisite pavilion in his hand would naturally not be damaged. To be able to be used as a safety deposit box, it should at least have a basic anti-earthquake effect. Unexpectedly, the black-clothed man was just putting on an act. At this moment, he raised his hand and used the exquisite pavilion to block in front of him. The jade ornament that the clan leader had flicked out in a moment of desperation hit the seal box squarely in the middle. Pa! The clan leader's furious attack was extremely powerful. It was even more powerful than the black-clothed man's desperate attack. With a crisp sound, the entire jade ornament turned into powder, and the Ling Long seal box was sent flying far away by the black-clothed man's hand, falling to the ground. It must be said that the exquisite pavilion was indeed sturdy enough. Under such a strong attack, it only left a shallow dent. However, the sizzling sound from the seal box and the wisps of white smoke that were emitted from the irregular edges had clearly told everyone present what had happened. That half of the peerless treasure map that was specially kept in the four aspects exquisite pavilion was actually destroyed in the hands of the clan leader of the southern part of the city. Ha ha ha! The black-clothed man roared with laughter as the Sure clan members looked as if they wanted to eat him alive. Was there anything more joyous than seeing a group of people's hopes extinguished before him? Especially when this group of people were his enemies. The Sure clan leader's expression was so cold that it could almost freeze. Looking at the laughing black-clothed man, he wanted to skin the man alive. However, the only survivor could not die yet. At the very least, He had to know from his mouth which faction had attacked him. Was it the Song clan, the Dai clan, the Chiu clan, the Tang clan, or was it the Shi clan? Looking at the Shi clan leader who was standing not far from him, the black-clothed man's face revealed a crazed smile. In the end, the Shi clan's 4 clans had still lost everything. Although he was also in the same boat, the Shi clan had originally held onto the treasure map. Seeing that the Shi clan leader was even sadder than he was, the black-clothed man laughed even more happily. Knowing that he could not escape, the black-clothed man had already made up his mind to die. He was even more pleased that he had successfully destroyed the exquisite seal box. The only thing that he was unhappy about was that the culprit, Wang Sheng, had actually managed to escape. Our companion who escaped has already taken away the things inside. The black-clothed man smiled at the Shi clan leader who was slowly walking over. This 4-aspect, exquisite seal box of yours only has an undeserved reputation. I originally wanted to change a rag for you to play with, but you discovered it. Do you not feel so sad now? If Wang Sheng was here, he would definitely be speechless when he heard the black-clothed man's words. He could even think of the same thing as stuffing a rag in. They really had a common language. Seeing the black-clothed man smiling at him, the Shi clan leader's heart suddenly shook. Just as he was about to attack, he saw a trace of black blood slowly flowing down the black-clothed man's mouth. Unknowingly, the black-clothed man had already consumed a lethal poison. These people were all death warriors. How could they leave themselves alive for the enemy? Go and find out who the person who escaped is. Suppressing the anger in his heart, the Shi clan leader calmly ordered. Regardless of whether the black-clothed man's words were true or false, they had to investigate. If it was true, then there was still hope. If it wasn't, then the Shi clan would not let anyone who dared to offend the Shi clan go. Chapter 58. After giving the order, the first thing he did was to open the 4-aspect exquisite box that had been damaged by his jade pendant. Once the corrosive liquid inside was not complete, there would still be a part of the treasure map left. That was still half a piece. Perhaps the heavens really had eyes. When Patriarch Shi opened the broken 4-phases exquisite seal box, he indeed found a corner of the treasure map. Although only a small part was left, there was still a little bit left, wasn't there? But when he carefully examined it, his heart sank. It was indeed a remnant of the animal skin scroll, but there was only a small piece left. Thinking of the black-clothed man's smile before his death, the Shi clan leader was both angry and desperate. He was angry because he was completely fooled, and desperate because the treasure map was really destroyed. Even if he caught the guy who escaped, there was no hope of getting it back. However, this was said by the black-clothed man in public. Maybe he could use this to cause trouble for the Pavilion of Delicacy and make them bear part of the loss. Wang Sheng, who was running away, had no idea that he had been made a scapegoat again. This scapegoat was even more troublesome than being Song Yan's fiancée. Although the 4 sects of the Shi clan were only in Linchuan City, they were not inferior to the main family of the Shi clan. Moreover, this matter had directly alarmed the main family, and the whole Shi clan was mobilized. In fact, it was not only the Shi clan that was mobilized. The forces that the black-clothed man belonged to also had their eyes on the only guy who escaped. Not to mention the fact that the Shi clan directly brought the destroyed 4-aspects exquisite seal box to the Pavilion of Delicacy and asked them to bear part of the loss. They also offered a piece of linen cloth that was thrown into the corrosive liquid by the Shi clan. The Pavilion of Delicacy claimed that the 4-aspect exquisite box could never be opened, and even a master who made it patted his chest and guaranteed it. But the treasure map was replaced with a linen cloth. For the sake of their reputation, the Pavilion of Delicacy could not stay out of this matter. Wang Sheng's identity was found out almost at dawn the next day. It couldn't be helped. His short hair that was revealed after his headscarf was too eye-catching. It was as bright as a firefly in the night. Even after a few months, he still hadn't completely changed his hairstyle into that of the natives of this world. This obvious characteristic almost confirmed his identity upon investigation. The murderer of young Master Dai, Jiahuan, and 4th Master Dai wanted by both the Song and Dai families. This time, Shi family, Ling Long Pavilion, and even the mysterious Black Robe family were also included. Wang Sheng felt the unprecedented pressure almost the next day. It was impossible for Wang Sheng to run far in one night. But it still could not stop those greedy fellows. The more people who chased after them died, the more it proved that they were chasing in the right direction. At the same time, it helped them to eradicate a possible competitor. When Wang Sheng collapsed from exhaustion, no one knew who would be the lucky one to reap the rewards. Wang Sheng was taking a rest, drinking water, and eating at the same time. In his storage ring, there were more than 30 worry-free city killer tokens. At least 4 of them were silver, which meant that he was at least a 3rd-level killer. At the same time, there were a few good-looking weapons in the storage ring. At this moment, Wang Sheng was carrying a longbow on his back. This was the weapon of one of the pursuers. He almost shot Wang Sheng to death, but that fellow made a mistake. He thought that he could kill Wang Sheng with the longbow from a few feet away. In the end, he was shot in the head by Wang Sheng. This longbow was not bad. He didn't know what material the back of the bow was made of, but it was very flexible. Its shooting range reached 200 meters. Now it was Wang Sheng's main long-range weapon. Most of the killing, including hunting, was done with this longbow. The meat he was eating was the rabbit that was shot by the arrow. Wang Sheng didn't understand why the Shi family was so desperate to kill him. He had only killed a spoiled brat from the Shi family. Why did they have to be so desperate? Even if he killed 4th Master Dai, the Dai family's foreign affairs manager, he wouldn't be hunted down to this extent, right? Wang Sheng didn't know what happened in Linchuan City after that. Although Wang Sheng managed to capture a few pursuers alive during the process of being hunted down, they didn't know everything, and he didn't have a chance to get a complete confession. He didn't know what the Black Robe man wanted to drag him down with him even before he died. As he rested, Wang Sheng decided that he had to capture one of them alive and interrogate them about what happened. Otherwise, he would be kept in the dark, and he would fail one day. Being hunted down wasn't completely without its benefits. At least in terms of cultivation, Wang Sheng had gained a lot. It had to be said that for someone with an extremely strong mentality like Wang Sheng, the pressure was a huge motivation. Most people would collapse under pressure to a certain extent, but Wang Sheng wouldn't. When he pushed himself to the limit, he would only rebound. After being hunted for half a month, Wang Sheng's Chi Kiss spirit had been tempered to the limit. Just 3 hours ago, the Chi Kiss source spirit swallowed the smallest boulder in one gulp. The surging spiritual chi was like a carp that Wang Sheng's spirit had just jumped over the dragon gate, crazily being absorbed by Wang Sheng. That boulder was originally formed from spiritual chi. After being swallowed by the Chi Kiss spirit, it was directly integrated into Wang Sheng's body. Wang Sheng had already experienced spiritual chi nourishing and transforming his body once, so he wasn't unfamiliar with it. With the help of the battle consciousness minion, he actively controlled the spiritual chi to continue strengthening his eyes. Wang Sheng had experienced the benefits of greatly improving his eyesight more than once or twice. Now that he had this kind of opportunity, how could he not maintain his advantage? In terms of cultivation and spiritual chi, how could Wang Sheng compare with those aborigines who had been cultivating since childhood? After another 2 hours, Wang Sheng's spiritual chi nourishment was completed. Just by moving his hands and feet, Wang Sheng knew that his physical fitness had improved again. Unfortunately, there was no way to do any big exercise to adapt to it. First, he would replenish his energy and slowly get used to it in actual combat. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Wang Sheng covered all traces and quietly disappeared into the jungle. One of the experts in pursuit accidentally stepped on an empty stone. His foot was in the air, and his figure staggered. Before he could completely balance his body, his ankle was tightened, and his whole body was bounced into the air. Bang! He was still in the air when he was punched in the chest, followed by a pain in his shoulder. A sharp blade directly pierced into his shoulder, entering from the front and coming out from the back, nailing his whole body to the trunk of a big tree behind him. His ankle was bound by a very flexible rattan, and behind the rattan was a crooked tree trunk, which was pulling him up violently. His body was nailed to the tree by a long sword. Under that pulling force, the wound made him want to die even more, and he directly let out a shrill scream. Chi! Another long sword. This time, it pierced through the hand that was still free, nailing his hand to the tree as well. This time, the master who was chasing fell down, and his ankle was pulled up, but his body was nailed to the tree trunk. It was a tragic sight. Who was chasing me? Why? Wang Sheng's figure finally appeared in front of the master who was being restrained, and the Tiger Fong military knife in his hand was placed on the guy's neck, asking in a deep voice. Everyone cherished their lives, and the pursuers were even more so. This time, Wang Sheng's luck was not bad. Under Wang Sheng's questioning, this guy finally told the reason intermittently. F***CK. After listening to the confession, Wang Sheng couldn't help but burst out with vulgarities. This was truly an undeserved calamity. Who knew that the group of black-clothed people would actually put such a big black pot on him? Chapter 59. Have you seen a treasure map? Wang Sheng admitted that he had seen it. However, Wang Sheng would not be so shameless as to put a rag in there. Also, did the Sure family people have pig brains? They believed the enemy's dying words. They even sent out such a huge force to chase after him. While he was scolding the Sure family for their pig brains, Wang Sheng took out the map and looked at it, preparing to plan his escape route. The peerless treasure map might not attract the attention of many experts, but his sniper rifle and a method to upgrade an unrated source spirit was something that any powerhouse would drool over. This time round, he could only escape before the real top experts arrived. Because of Fourth Master Dai's death, the various parties would definitely attach importance to Wang Sheng's power, so they would send out at least a 5th-stage realm expert. Even if Wang Sheng used the sniper rifle and armor-piercing bullets, he might not be able to do anything to the other party. If it was the Dai family or Sure family who had died in his hands, or even the Song family who had sent people to chase after him, Wang Sheng wouldn't feel anything at all. After all, they were seeking revenge, and these 3 families had people who had died in his hands, so they treated Wang Sheng as an enemy. So it was understandable for them to chase after him. But now, the other families had no relations with Wang Sheng at all, and they actually sent people to chase after him. This made Wang Sheng very unhappy. It seemed that everyone had treated Wang Sheng as a soft persimmon and wanted to pinch him, hoping to get some benefits from Wang Sheng. Did they really think that Wang Sheng was made out of clay and that he could get whatever he wanted? Wang Sheng was infuriated. If the tiger didn't show its might, did they really treat him as a sick cat? Going head-to-head, Wang Sheng was at most a 1st-stage realm intermediate fellow. Not to mention those 5th-stage realm experts. He couldn't even be compared to those 2nd and 3rd-stage realm experts. Even if Wang Sheng's source spirit was more special than the others, it could not hide the fact that Wang Sheng had only cultivated for a few months. However, Wang Sheng was not a fool. He would never fight head-on with those experts. Since he could let someone die in a coward's nest, why let him die with a bang? The experts from the various aristocratic families finally arrived. However, they soon discovered that Wang Sheng had disappeared. No matter how many people they mobilized, they could not find Wang Sheng's whereabouts. It was as if Wang Sheng had suddenly disappeared in that mountainous area. Clearly, there were still people who could track them. To put it bluntly, the corpses of the people in front of them were the best guideposts. As long as the corpse was found, it meant that the person was definitely in this direction. The problem was that when everyone thought that he should be here, he was gone. This was surprising. However, it couldn't be said that he had disappeared. Everyone just didn't want Wang Sheng to go to that place. The leading experts who rushed over this time were totally unlike Fourth Master Dai, who was ostentatious. Probably because they had received Fourth Master Dai's lesson. Their dressing was exactly the same as ordinary top exponents. If it wasn't for the fact that they had given orders at some point in time, no one would know that they were 5th-stage realm top exponents. At least 1,000 top exponents gathered in a radius of several tens of miles to search frantically. Various kinds of tracking methods were used to track animals. In the end, they all gathered at the side of a valley and lost track of Wang Sheng. Escaped? It was an impossible thing to escape from such an inescapable net of so many top exponents. There were at least 15 fifth-stage realm top exponents here, adding on to the top exponents they brought along. If they let a first-stage realm young lad escape, they could all just slit their own throats. There was another possibility, which was that Wang Sheng had entered this valley. But this was a situation which no one was willing to see. Even though all the traces indicated that there was an 80% possibility that Wang Sheng had entered this valley. A group of top exponents stood at the side of the valley, looking at each other, but no one went in. After this valley, we'll reach the grounds of Thousand Despair, right? Finally, one of the top exponents from an aristocratic family sighed and asked. That's right, seventh uncle. Someone immediately replied. Actually, there was no need to ask. Everyone knew this name. Even that top exponent just wanted to confirm it. Grounds of Thousand Despair was a forbidden area. Not knowing when it started, Grounds of Thousand Despair had become a forbidden area for all cultivators. Various large families and sects, including the imperial court, all prohibited their cultivators from entering. Of course, the reason why it became a forbidden area was not only because of the various families' prohibition, but because Grounds of Thousand Despair itself was a land of death. This area had a circumference of 1,000 miles, and there were all kinds of powerful demonic beasts roaming around. The entire country's super demonic beasts could be said to be in Grounds of Thousand Despair. Many demonic beast hunters hunted demonic beasts in the periphery of Grounds of Thousand Despair. Even the territories of the various aristocratic families basically revolved around Grounds of Thousand Despair. Not only were there powerful demonic beasts in Grounds of Thousand Despair, there were also all kinds of extreme environments such as poisonous miasma, lava-spewing volcanoes, swamps that swallowed everything, dangerous mountain ranges, and even deserts and tropical jungles. There was no shortage of such things. Ordinary cultivators would die if they entered. Not to mention the powerful demonic beasts in the 7th or 8th degree realm. Just those extreme environments alone were enough to kill people. It wasn't that there weren't any experts who didn't believe it. In the past few hundred years, there were at least thousands of experts, including many 7th or 8th degree realm experts, who had entered Grounds of Thousand Despair. But until now, other than 100 or so smart people who had only entered the periphery and realized that something was wrong, none of the others who had entered had returned. Later on, people also learned to be smart and only wandered around the periphery of Grounds of Thousand Despair. Even those demonic beast hunters were only active in the periphery of this region. 3rd or 4th degree realm demonic beasts were enough for the demonic beast hunters to eat their fill. Now, under the pursuit of so many experts, Wang Sheng had entered Grounds of Thousand Despair. This time, these experts who were chasing after him were in a difficult position. Should they chase after him or not to chase after him? They could totally understand why Wang Sheng would do this. If it was them, even if they had the highest cultivation level, if they would be chased by so many experts from the aristocratic families, they would either die if they advanced or retreated. They might even choose to enter Grounds of Thousand Despair to seek a chance of survival. But the problem was these people who wanted to dig out the big secret from Wang Sheng. Why would they be willing to accompany Wang Sheng to his death? Especially those few leaders. Their cultivation levels were high, and they had a bright future ahead of them. Each of their lives could be exchanged for the lives of 10,000 barbarians like Wang Sheng, asking them to enter Grounds of Thousand Despair to seek their own deaths. Even if they were beaten to death, they wouldn't be willing. Let Wang Sheng off just like that? That was even more impossible. Since all the aristocratic families had sent out such a lineup, how could they give up halfway? There's someone in the valley. One of the Chiu family's sharp-eyed expert, who probably had enhanced vision like Wang Sheng, suddenly whispered into his family's leader's ear, "He's hiding in the middle of the valley. He hasn't entered Grounds of Thousand Despair." The Chiu family's leader's spirits immediately rose, and his eyes quickly swept across the valley. Even though he couldn't see very clearly, he believed that his subordinate's eyesight wouldn't be wrong. In that instant, both of them understood Wang Sheng's plan. He actually didn't have any intention of entering grounds of Thousand Despair. He only wanted to hide in the valley on the outskirts of grounds of Thousand Despair. If everyone was frightened by his actions and didn't dare to chase after him, then Wang Sheng would have succeeded. They didn't dare to enter grounds of Thousand Despair, but if they didn't even dare to enter this valley that connected grounds of Thousand Despair to the outside world, then they would be too cowardly. The Chiu family's leader quietly thought for a while and turned to ask his subordinate, "Can you keep an eye on his approximate position?" After receiving his subordinate's affirmative reply, the Chiu family's fifth-degree realm expert made up his mind. With a wave of his hand, he led the Chiu family's top experts into the valley. The moment the Chiu family made their move, the other aristocratic families immediately fell into chaos. It was at this moment that Wang Sheng, who was in the valley, also saw everything. He quickly moved and fled towards the deeper parts of the valley. The moment Wang Sheng moved, the experts from the other families immediately noticed something was amiss. Almost instantly, all the experts reacted and understood Wang Sheng's plan. Trying to bluff his way through in front of so many people, this was simply treating everyone as fools. After the Chiu family, who was one of the 5 great families, followed closely behind was the Dai family. Following that, the Gan family dared not fall behind and also rushed in. Behind them, a few other teams from the aristocratic families rushed in. Of course, not everyone rushed in. Every family left at least a third of their people outside the valley. Besides that, there were a few other aristocratic families who had been observing and didn't move at all. Tang family, Song family, and even Shi family were the same. There were at least 300 to 400 people watching from outside the valley. The experts who rushed in quickly realized that there was a strange smell in the valley, and it gave off a suffocating feeling. They were all experts and immediately realized that something was wrong. This should be a kind of poisonous miasma. If an ordinary person came in, they would definitely be poisoned to death before they could walk far. Although it was said to be a valley, it was actually a small swamp. On the ground of the valley, there were many rotten leaves, and there were quite a number of small puddles. That disgusting smell was emitted from these things on the ground. On the ground and in the water, there were some small holes which were poked by a stick. Needless to ask, these were definitely traces left behind by Wang Sheng, who used a wooden stick to explore the path. If it was just these traces that made everyone suspicious, then the fellow who was running wildly at the end of their vision made everyone's suspicions disappear. All of them were experts. Everyone held their breath and chased with all their might. Their speed was 50% faster than Wang Sheng's. Those with sharp eyes quickly realized that Wang Sheng's face seemed to be covered with something. They immediately reacted and used a cloth to cover his mouth and nose. Instantly, they felt more comfortable. Looking at Wang Sheng's back view, everyone quickly chased after him. A few of the 5th-degree realm experts who had rushed into the valley suddenly felt that something was wrong. As for what exactly was wrong, no one could tell, but there was a sense of impending disaster. This was the intuition of an expert, and it had saved many lives in the past. The few experts didn't dare to be careless. As they chased, they carefully observed the surroundings, afraid that there were any traps or ambushes. At this moment, Wang Sheng had already rushed out of the entrance of the valley. With a turn, he disappeared behind a large rock. What no one noticed was that a fire sickle with sparks of flame flew out from behind the large rock and landed in the valley. Chapter 60. People in this world would study all kinds of elixirs, and there would be primitive chemistry, but there would never be large-scale, systematic research. Therefore, many people, including these experts who were focused on cultivation, would never know that there was such a thing as biogas. For people on Earth, as long as they took high school chemistry, they would know what methane was. There was a large amount of methane in nature, and a lot of it was formed in such an environment in the valley. The reason why it was called methane was that it was formed in swamps in the natural environment. However, most of the time, if the naturally formed methane did not spread, most of it would be at the bottom of the water or silt. This valley had been carefully selected by Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng did not waste the time waiting for the masters of the aristocratic families to rush over. It was not easy for him to find such a unique and good place. In the eyes of the world's masters who were chasing him, the small holes in the ground and water with wooden sticks were marks left behind by Wang Sheng when he fell into the swamp and used the wooden sticks to test the water. However, Wang Sheng knew very well that those small holes were actually guiding the methane out of the ground and water. This valley was not a valley with good ventilation, so it was especially suitable for the formation of methane. There was usually a lot of methane in the air. It was mixed with the rotten smell of leaves and other things, which people in this world generally thought was miasma. The methane that Wang Sheng had drawn out of the underground water quickly blended into the air. According to Wang Sheng's judgment, it had long passed the explosion limit. As long as there was a spark, it would cause the whole valley to explode. It was certain that the gas in the valley was poisonous, but it was not a problem for Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng's hard mouth and nose cover could solve this problem perfectly. The active carbon filter layer could absorb most of the poisonous gas. In addition, there were 2 compressed airbags. Wang Sheng had basically only used them a few times, so there was still a lot of compressed air left. It was enough for Wang Sheng to stay safely in the valley. Looking at the masters who were chasing him, Wang Sheng felt it was a pity that there were still 300 or 400 people who stayed outside and did not follow in. Otherwise, it would have been the perfect ending. After rushing out of the valley, Wang Sheng opened his fire scythe. It was a kind of fire-making tool in this world. There was some kind of burning grass inside the small bamboo tube that could last for a long time. As long as it was blown on, an open flame would appear. After throwing out the fire sickle, Wang Sheng did not dare to stay any longer. He ran as far as he could. Anyway, he had already turned a corner, so he would not bear the direct impact of the explosion. The nearest Chiu family expert was less than 100 meters away from the entrance of the valley. He saw the fire scythe fly into the valley in a perfect curve. The fire scythe hadn't even landed on the ground when a ball of blue flame ignited somewhere. Then, the entire valley became a huge bomb, exploding with a loud bang. It was a huge valley that was several miles long, 1 mile wide, and nearly 1 mile deep. The whole valley was filled with methane and countless explosive gases. How terrifying would it be if it suddenly exploded? The ground in this area shook violently, as if it had been hit by a giant hammer. The power of the explosion was comparable to a small-scale earthquake. A mushroom cloud rose up from the center of the valley, and very quickly, it became a smoke pillar of several thousand meters. The center of the valley, where the gas was the densest, instantly reached a temperature of over 1,000 degrees. The 100 overtop exponents in that area didn't even have the chance to make a sound before they turned into charcoal. No matter if it was a 5th stage realm exponent or a 2nd stage realm or 3rd stage realm follower, the result was the same. In front of this kind of explosion, which was comparable to heaven's might, no matter how strong the exponents were, they were all trash. The border area was slightly better, but only by a little. Those top exponents who were scattered in this area were like baseball balls which had been hit, as they flew up cleanly. These top exponents had an average of more than 100 life and death battles. To be able to send their bodies flying so far, it was probably less than once for each of them. But this last time, it claimed the lives of most of them. The damage caused by the intense explosion had definitely exceeded the full force attack of the strongest exponents. While they were still in the air, there were already 70% of the exponents who spat out blood and died. Those who didn't die under this kind of explosion were all top exponents, and the worst was at least in the 4th stage realm. Only then would they be able to use a breath of spiritual chi to protect their bodies and not die from the explosion. But even so, it didn't mean that they had a chance to live on. Originally, everyone held their breaths in the valley, afraid that they would breathe in too much poisonous gas. Later on, when Wang Sheng escaped, Everyone chased after him madly, and as their breathing became hurried, they couldn't help but breathe in a lot of poisonous gas and methane. And because of this, some of the explosion and combustion happened in the body, in everyone's respiratory system, which meant that even if they survived that degree of explosion, but everyone's respiratory system would inevitably suffer some injuries. Being blown up and thrown heavily onto the ground was another injury. This degree of attack was enough to make these top exponents' internal organs tremble and spit out blood. But this wasn't the end. The sudden explosion of the entire valley was simply the explosive power of a large-scale fuel air bomb. After the explosion, the surrounding air within a few miles of the valley was immediately consumed by the intense combustion. This was originally a valley which didn't have much ventilation and wasn't conducive for diffusion. This time round, everyone inside and outside the valley were facing a disaster. Lack of oxygen. If they weren't injured and held their breaths in time, based on everyone's cultivation, they would absolutely be able to reduce the consumption of oxygen and hold on until fresh air diffused over. The problem was, those lucky fellows who survived in the valley were all seriously injured. Earlier, all of them were breathing hurriedly, and now their respiratory system had suffered from the combustion. The few strongest experts who had managed to survive with great difficulty had suffocated to death in such a hopeless situation one by one. When those top exponents who were watching from outside the valley exploded, at least 30 over of them who were facing the valley entrance were affected by the explosion and flew far away. Only less than half of them were able to climb up. Those top exponents who didn't feel the explosion directly looked at everything that happened in front of their eyes in terror. No one could believe that in that instance, the entire valley had turned into a dead valley. How is this possible? There were at least 10 fifth-stage realm top exponents, 10 over fourth-stage realm top exponents, and the rest were all third-stage or second-stage realm. How could they all perish in an instant? The people outside could see that there were people who didn't die, but now they couldn't even take care of themselves, and suddenly they couldn't catch their breaths. So how would they have the energy to take care of others? Everyone held their breaths, and no one dared to act rashly. They could only watch the few lucky survivors struggling in the valley, each of them digging their throats, in so much pain that they couldn't even make a sound. After struggling for a while, they slowly died. That scene was simply too horrifying. Every single top exponent who saw this felt as though they had fallen into an ice cellar as their bodies turned cold. More than half of them didn't realize that their bodies were shivering and their upper and lower rows of teeth were chattering nonstop, giving off a clattering sound. The disdain when they received the order to pursue and kill, the shock when they chased to this place, the shock when they discovered that Wang Sheng had entered the Thousand Despair, the unwillingness, and the surprise when they discovered that Wang Sheng was in the valley, etc., etc. All the emotions at this moment were only left with a complicated feeling, which was fear and rejoice. When the fear reached the extreme, perhaps they wouldn't feel anything. At least no one felt that they were like the people beside them who were shivering and shivering. But in their hearts, there was a trace of rejoicing that they had escaped from death. Luckily, they didn't chase after him. Luckily, they weren't among those who chased after him. Otherwise, they would have ended up like those inside. The most comfortable outcome would be death on the spot. The most unfortunate would be suffocation later on. With so many top exponents who hadn't seen dead people before. On average, each of them had killed at least 80, if not 100 people. But when had they ever seen such a terrifying and shocking scene of murder? Especially when they almost became one of the corpses. Wang Sheng's figure seemed to have become the most terrifying symbol in the deepest part of their hearts. The moment they thought of it, they couldn't help but tremble. Those few fifth-degree realm exponents had the highest cultivation level. Their mental strength was also the strongest, so they recovered the fastest. When they woke up from the shock, they immediately realized that something was wrong and hurriedly shouted a few times to wake them up from the shock. Fresh air had already been replenished, and everyone no longer felt suffocated. As long as they quickly took a few deep breaths and circulated their spiritual energy, their bodies would return to normal. But at this moment, No one had the mood to continue the chase. Not to mention the fact that they had entered the grounds of Thousand Despair after crossing the valley. Just the scene in the valley was enough to make everyone lose the courage to continue the chase. The Chiu family's fifth-degree realm exponent, who was the fastest in the chase, was just a little bit away from the explosion. Unfortunately, just a little bit more. His body was thrown high up into the air by the explosion and landed heavily on the ground. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, and the suffocating pain almost made him tear his own throat. At this moment, he saw the figure of his target, Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng was still standing straight. He was wearing a full set of parachuting equipment, a helmet, goggles, a hard mouth and nose mask, camouflage clothes, and a pair of military boots. He held a Glock 17 in his right hand and a tiger fang in his left. He slowly walked up to Wang Sheng. The Chiu family exponent couldn't understand why Wang Sheng didn't seem to be suffocating at all. He couldn't understand how Wang Sheng could cause such a terrifying amount of damage with just a flaming sickle. At this moment, his eyes were slack and his pupils were dilated. He was about to die. In his eyes, Wang Sheng had already become blurry. There is only one sentence left in the Chiu family exponent's mind. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have come. After that, he completely fell into darkness. Through the heavy black smoke, Wang Sheng couldn't see the situation on the opposite side of the valley, but he still shouted towards the valley, "Chase me if you're not afraid of death." At this moment, the valley had become the best loudspeaker and repeater. Waves of sound waves were reflected and filled the entire valley. "Chase me if you're not afraid of death. Chase me if you're not afraid of death. Chase me. Chase me." Chapter 61. What did you say? His hand trembled, and the teacup in old clan leader Tang's hand almost fell onto the ground. Luckily, his cultivation was high, and he managed to steady his hand in time. However, he was still shocked by the news he heard. Tang Ao sent news back. They chased Wang Sheng to the valley where the grounds of Thousand Despair leads. Wang Sheng killed 9 fifth-stage realm experts and over 100 experts in an instant. The person who replied, "Old Master Tang," was also an old man. However, he had heard the news earlier and had already passed the most shocking period. His tone was very calm. Old Master Tang couldn't be blamed for losing his composure. When second Elder Tang, who was in charge of reporting the news, heard the news, he smashed a table and almost tore the entire room apart. Old Master Tang was indeed more composed than him. Up till now, only a little of the tea had been poured out. Old Master Tang was calm, but the other elders had lost their composure. 2 of them stood up and shattered the chair they were sitting on. Another 2 even crushed the teacups in their hands. "Tell me in detail." Old Master Tang had also calmed down. He wanted to hear the detailed news. Tang Ao was the 5th-stage realm expert who led the team out this time. Old Master Tang was very concerned about him. "I'll let the subordinate who brought the news back say it." Second Elder Tang turned around and brought the Tang family's disciple who brought the news back to Old Master Tang and the elders. This Tang family's disciple had been following Tang Ao, who led the team. At that time, he didn't enter the valley, but just watched from the outside. He knew more about the situation. Facing the clan leader and the elders, he didn't dare to be negligent and quickly recounted the situation. So many experts chased after them. Not knowing what happened, the entire valley started to burn and explode. A mushroom cloud rose up, and it was simply a scene from hell. Even if they weren't at the scene, just by listening to the Tang family's disciples' description, they could imagine how terrifying the situation was. Tang Ao didn't let you in, so our Tang family didn't lose anything, right? One of the elders patted his chest in relief. Reporting to Elder, that's indeed the case. The Tang family's disciple hurriedly turned to the elder and replied, "At that time, there were 3 families who didn't enter. Our family, the Song family, and the Shi family. In addition, not all of them went in. Some of them stayed outside. I believe the news has already spread to the various families." When Tang Ao left, we told him to be careful and not to be the first in everything. It seems like he listened to us. Grandfather Tang nodded his head and praised. At his level of cultivation, he should be able to calm down. This child is not bad. Everyone nodded. To be able to save the lives of their own children with a single order was naturally worthy of their praise. Furthermore, old Master Tang had already given his approval, so how could they not agree? The Song family and that man, Wang Sheng, have some relations, so it's understandable that their people are trying to kill us. But what about the Shi family? If you saw Wang Sheng, why didn't you chase after him? Grandfather Tang also made a mistake and nearly called out Man Zi. When everyone heard about Wang Sheng, they thought that he was just a barbarian. What threat could he pose? Later on, when they heard more about Wang Sheng, their impression of him changed. Grandfather Tang personally gave the order not to call Wang Sheng a barbarian, in case they underestimated him. He had almost disobeyed his own orders. Everyone acted as though they hadn't heard Grandfather Tang's slip of the tongue. They were all frowning as they pondered over Grandfather Tang's question. After a while, someone finally spoke up. Logically speaking, when a Shi family's secret treasure map was stolen, they should be chasing after it with all their might. But when all the experts from our families arrived, their fifth-degree realm expert appeared. Isn't this a little too fake? Second Elder Tang asked doubtfully. If this happened to us, what would happen? First, don't tell anyone. Then immediately send out experts to kill Wang Sheng at all costs and retrieve the treasure map. Another elder replied without hesitation. In that case, the Shi family must be up to something. Grandfather Tang nodded his head. This matter wasn't hard to guess. There must be some ulterior motive, otherwise they wouldn't have acted in such a manner. After losing the peerless treasure map, they actually announced it to the world. This wasn't logical. Didn't they see how the Song and Dai family fought so fiercely? Until now, no one knew what the Dai family had stolen from the Shi family. Let's not talk about this first. How is that Wang Xing now? Grandfather Tang asked the disciple who had returned to report. He provoked everyone with a few words. Unafraid of death, he chased after us and headed into the grounds of 1,000 extremities. The disciple hurriedly replied. After he swaggered off for a long time, Uncle Ao brought us into the valley to take a look. Did you find out what method he used? Another elder who was seated hurriedly asked. How did he set the entire valley ablaze and kill so many experts? Hearing this question, the Tang family disciple smiled bitterly and shook his head. He didn't say anything and couldn't say anything. At that time, he had personally entered the valley to take a look. Other than a number of fallen leaves which had been burned into a mess, he couldn't see what could have caused such a huge explosion. He couldn't think of anything even if he racked his brains. It was said that someone in the Song family had seen Wang Sheng throw something into the valley. However, after digging 3 feet into the valley, they only found a fire scythe. If someone said that a fire scythe could cause such a huge explosion, no one present would believe it. This was simply a mystery. They could only say that Wang Sheng had a powerful, godly weapon in his hands that could instantly kill a 5th-degree realm expert. Furthermore, it could also take a life from a few miles away. This was in line with the rumors. But in this way, Wang Sheng's danger level had risen by a lot. In the future, how they should treat this Wang Sheng had become a headache for the big shots. What happened after that? What about Tang Ao and the rest? Old Master Tang put aside this matter and asked about Tang Ao's whereabouts. Uncle Ao said that it was a great humiliation for him to be frightened by a 1st-degree realm lad, so he decided to chase after him. He wanted to see Wang Sheng dead before he retreated. The reporting disciple quickly replied. Uncle Ao specifically sent this lowly one back to report that he will not force himself. He will only chase after Wang Sheng and not make a move. He will force Wang Sheng to go deeper. He believes that Wang Sheng will not go far. Once Wang Sheng died, Uncle Ao would retreat from the grounds of 1,000 Despair. Many experts had entered the grounds of 1,000 Despair, and none of them could come out. Wang Sheng was just a nobody. Even if the Shi family said that he was in the 1st-degree realm, it might just be an illusion. For such a lad to enter the grounds of 1,000 Despair, other than death, there was no other possibility. In this way, everyone was a little relieved. As long as Tang Ao was careful, there shouldn't be a problem for him to escape unscathed. Chapter 62. The Tang family was not the only one who was shocked. The same thing happened to the Dai family, Shi family, Song family, Chiu family, Xia family, Gan family, Feng family, and some other influential families. This time, it was not just the large families who sent out their experts. There were also some influential families who wanted to fish in troubled waters. However, other than the Tang, Song, and Shi families, almost all of the fifth-stage realm experts sent by the other forces had rushed into the valley. All of them were destroyed by Wang Sheng's fire scythe. Those families did not have it as easy as the Tang family, Song family, and Shi family. Their fifth-degree realm experts were all killed in the valley. One must know that the price needed to nurture a fifth-degree realm expert was so high that even the top aristocratic families would feel the pinch. What was more worrying was that after this incident, Wang Sheng had completely proven his ability to kill experts from a distance. Even if it was just a few miles away, which was not considered too far, it was enough to make many people unable to eat or sleep in peace. The more important a person was, the more afraid they were of death. Once they knew that there was someone who could kill them from a few miles away, they would not be able to eat, sleep, or travel safely. That kind of fear was exactly the same as those fellows in Worry-Free City who lived in fear for their entire lives. This kind of huge threat had to die. Otherwise, these influential families would not be able to sleep well. Sleep well? That would be a joke. But to kill 9 fifth-degree realm experts and over 100 third and fourth-degree realm experts, how could they kill such a person? The only possibility was to drive him into the lands of thousand extremes and let him die there. This was probably the consensus of everyone. Even the experts who had been chasing after Wang Sheng had the same thought. So, Wang Sheng could only go deeper into the thousand extremes, and there was no way he could turn back. Even if there were over 100 experts following behind him, Wang Sheng did not panic. This was Wang Sheng's strong mental fortitude, and the main reason why he could not collapse in the face of adversity. If you're not afraid of death, come after me. After the provocation, Wang Sheng did not hesitate and strode deeper into the thousand extremes. If it weren't for the fact that the song, Come If You Dare, expressed the wrong emotion, Wang Sheng would have hummed this Hokkien song and walked forward. The explosion in the valley would at least cause the experts behind him to hesitate for a few hours. These few hours were enough for Wang Sheng to swagger into the depths of the grounds of Thousand Despair. If it weren't for the fact that the surrounding mountains were surrounded by experts from all sides, Wang Sheng would have wanted to find a different direction to escape. Unfortunately, he couldn't. He could only walk deeper into the lands of despair. Even if Wang Sheng wasn't a native, he knew what kind of place the lands of Thousand Despair was. After living in this world for a few months, he had already grasped a lot of common sense. It could be said that the grounds of Thousand Despair was the forbidden area of the entire world. Even the strongest experts who entered would only end up dead. Wang Sheng walked with ease, but the experts who entered the valley behind him were all tensed up. They were afraid that Wang Sheng would cause another terrifying explosion and drag them down with him. The scene of the explosion in the valley was just too terrifying. Even after Wang Sheng had disappeared without a trace, no one dared to enter the valley. If it weren't for the few fifth-degree realm experts leading the way, the others wouldn't even dare to take a step into the valley. Even so, the experts who entered the valley were all trembling, afraid that the explosion would happen again in the next moment. Everyone's body was trembling. Even if the few fifth-degree realm experts leading the way and the followers behind them couldn't see their trembling, they knew their own family affairs. The cold sweat that kept seeping out from their backs was a clear proof. The fifth-degree realm expert from the Song family was the first to rush to the opposite side of the valley. After taking control of the valley entrance, the others heaved a sigh of relief. As long as the fifth-degree realm expert could stop Wang Sheng from causing trouble in the valley, they could rest assured and continue their inspection in the valley. One of the experts in the Song family had good eyesight and saw the scene of Wang Sheng throwing the fire sickle. So the experts from the Song family gathered at the end of the valley. On one hand, they were searching for what Wang Sheng had thrown out. On the other hand, there was a strong expert who died, and they had to check on his cause of death. When they passed through the middle of the valley, the pile of charred corpses was too shocking. Even if it was a fifth-degree realm expert, when faced with such a scene, they couldn't help but tremble. Although they knew that there was a fifth-degree realm expert at the end of the valley who could protect the valley entrance, and before he died, the people in the valley didn't dare to be completely at ease. Every action they took was done carefully and trembled with fear. After a round of inspection, they could confirm that the batch of people who rushed into the valley had all died. The batch in the middle were burnt to death on the spot, and the remaining half were directly killed by the explosion. Those who struggled for half a day all died of suffocation. As this valley was deep and narrow, the ventilation wasn't good. Even if the oxygen outside was depleted, it was easy to replenish it. But it wasn't so simple in the valley where there wasn't much airflow. The lack of oxygen coupled with the large amount of carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide poisoning was the final cause of death. The experts' cultivation was very high, but there weren't many who knew about these. It could be said that there wasn't a single one. What marsh gas, what explosion limit, what fuel-air bomb theory, etc. were totally unknown. The final conclusion could only be that Wang Sheng had some kind of powerful magical weapon in his hands. Otherwise, there was no other explanation. What was more terrifying was that after a period of time, there was fresh air and they didn't have to worry about the danger of suffocation. But those leaves and grass, which had been deposited for who knows how many years, slowly burned and produced some gas, which contained a lot of carbon monoxide. Plop! Among the experts who were investigating in the valley, there were a few who were close to some swamps. The incomplete combustion produced the most carbon monoxide. These few fellows inhaled a large amount of it and fell into the trap silently. Luckily, there were companions not far away, and they dragged them out of the valley. After a round of torment, these fellows' lives were saved. But no one dared to stay in the valley for a long time. Countless people couldn't figure out the reason for this, even after racking their brains. It was obviously just a valley with a little miasma. How could so many experts be killed in it? The gazes of those with ulterior motives turned to Wang Sheng. Perhaps only Wang Sheng could explain all of this. The Dai, Shi, Song, Tang, and Qiu families had controlled the imperial government for so many years. If they could get Wang Sheng's help, perhaps this situation could be completely changed. Wang Sheng, who was in a land of thousand despair, didn't realize at all that his value had risen. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.